Oh, man. All right. Wait for a couple people to get in here. So wait for a couple people to get in here. We get started. Hey, Miss Shirley, how you doing today? Sorry I was a couple of minutes late. Having trouble logging in. Had to get logged in and set up and everything, but I'm here and I appreciate you for being here. Hope you're having a blessed day so far. It's a beautiful day out there. I hope you're enjoying. I know you like to get out and enjoy nature and everything, so I'm glad to see you here. How's everybody doing today? See people starting to come in. This is John Stewart on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church, Lost Sheep Ministry. I hope everybody's having a great day out there today, enjoying this beautiful day. The weather's perfect. It ain't too hot, ain't too cold, just the way I like it. So I thank you all for joining us today. What's going on, Kevin? How you doing there, brother? Your baby is asleep, Morgan. She can't be on. Yeah, I know I'm late, man. I was a couple of minutes late. Had a little problem logging in today, so I apologize about that. But hey, I'm here now. Let's start this party, all right? So, like I said, I'm John Stewart on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church. Morgan said put the baby on. She's asleep. I'm pretty sure she'll make a special guest appearance here pretty soon when she wake up. She always come harass me. So, but I thank you guys for joining us today. Spring day, beautiful day outside. And before I even get started, I want to let you all know I'm actually coming to y'all with a heavy heart today. Of course, you know, this is the Lost Sheep Ministry on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church. River Lake Baptist Church, where I got my start, my real start as far as serving God and doing God's work. And it's sad to say that yesterday morning, the church burned down. The actual building itself burned down. The church had been there for 60-some years. What's wrong with you?
You had someone in the back of your neck, stupid.
I'm live. You got people. Get on somewhere. Daughters, I'm telling you. Turn 15, then they just lose their mind. But I'm sorry, y'all. But like I said, the church burned down yesterday. It was definitely a lot of history there. The church had been there for almost 60 years, and it burned down yesterday, and it just broke my heart. My pastor, y'all pray for my pastor and his family. They're really going through it. You know, he's been here for preaching at the church for 25 years. Church been there since the 60s, and it just burned down today. I mean, to the ground. Like the only thing left standing was the brick walls. So I'm coming with a heavy heart today, and I just thank God that we was able to save one of the buildings. So we should be able to still go on. And of course, the good thing about the way we believe is, you know, the church is not the building. That was just the place where we met at. I mean, we've been meeting there for quite some time, but the church is just the place where we met. The church is the people that goes to the church. That's what the actual church is. So, you know, everybody's okay. The pastor had some minor blisters on his hand and his forehead from trying to put out the fire, and it got so hot, you know, that he got burnt a little bit. But overall, we lost the church and we lost everything in the church, the books, the Bibles, and everything. But, you know, everybody's health is good, so that's a blessing. So I'm coming in with a heavy heart today. It's just really, I mean, that's just not how you expect your Good Friday to start off, you know. But, you know, we got to move on, and I thank God for opening up this avenue here so the church can keep going and can keep growing. And I pray that once we get established and find our footing as far as which direction we're going to go in, that you guys come and help us as we rebuild there. So I'm coming with a heavy heart today, but the show must go on. The God's word still must go on, so that's why I'm here today. And of course, today I'm talking to you guys about testimonies and the importance of testimony. And I wanted to share my testimony. Several of you that know me, if I've ever preached or listened to me preach, you've heard my testimony before. And some of you know parts of it, bits and pieces. So today, I'm gonna share the whole thing and kind of explain how I got into this, because this is not a lot of people when you see them preaching and everything. Most people went to school for this and things of that nature, and I didn't. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't go to school for this. It's just something that the Lord Himself called me into. Matter of fact, when the Lord called me to preaching, you're gonna see as I go through the story that I wasn't even in school. I wasn't doing anything. I was at school in college, but I wasn't in church. I was nowhere near the church, and I was nowhere near serving God. And the Lord just showed me that my whole life He's been preparing me for this moment to start serving His purpose, His will. I just didn't see it because I was living for myself. So that's why I want to talk to y'all about testimonies today, and I wanted you to see the importance of a testimony. Now, the Bible says you defeat the devil by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So that's why your testimony is so important. Of course, a lot of people kind of criticize the way we believe. We're independent Baptists, and we believe that once you get saved, you're always saved. You can't lose your salvation, and this is not a lesson on that. But what you can do, you can lose your testimony. And that's what the devil would do. He'll try to mar your testimony, because if you don't have a good, clean testimony, it kind of mars the work that you can do for the Lord. Now, you can still do some things. And get some work accomplished, but you'll never be as good if you still got those things that you're supposed to have left behind that you're still dealing with. So that's what happens. You won't lose your salvation, but you can mar your testimony. And that's what the devil try to do. He try to get us to mar our testimony. And he does that by getting us to doubt God's word, doubt our salvation. Because the devil has a way of making us feel like we're none important. God don't love us. God can't use us. He'll make you feel that you're so terrible and so far away from God that there is no turning back and going to God. And God will never want to do anything with you. And that's what he does. But that's really just a trick. It's a ruse to get you to ruin your testimony. Because, you get to feel like, well, I've already done this bad thing. Well, I might as well keep on going. And that's not the case at all. Once we all backslid. It said, it says on Proverbs, a righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up again because he has hope. So you got to understand, that says a righteous man. So that's somebody that's doing everything they're supposed to be doing, serving the Lord. And it says they still fall 7 times, but they get back up again because they have hope. And they hope, of course, is the Lord. So that's what I want to do with my testimony today. I want to show y'all, I want y'all to see from my testimony that you're never too far away from God for God to use you. You're never too wrong. The Bible says he will not leave you nor forsake you. So I want you to make sure you understand that the Lord will never leave you or forsake you. If you get in front of, and some I come across all the time. I hear this. I can't tell you how many times I hear this statement. Man, I used to serve God. I used to be close to God, but I'm not no more. And I always like to ask them, well, what changed? Because God didn't change. God says, I'm the same today, tomorrow, forever. So God didn't change. So therefore, if you used to be close and you're not close anymore, it's not because he's changed and he's abandoned you. It's because you've changed and you turned your heart away from him. So I want y'all to remember that. And you'll see from my story today that I'm going to share with you that no matter how far away you are, you're never too far away from the Lord. You can always make the decision to go back to the Lord. And he will always, if you truly make that decision in your heart, he will always be there waiting for you with open arms. And I want y'all to see that from my story here today. And that's why I'm sharing it with you. And I'm hoping that with my testimony, you'll see some of yourself in there, and it'll give you the same reason that it gave me to really want to get put forth a violent effort to serve the Lord. All right, so one thing I want to say about testimonies, and you hear mine, you be like, man, God did do a lot for me. He brought me a long way, like Kevin said earlier, from the bottom to the top. Seriously, I mean, from the very bottom, I think I couldn't get no lower to know where I'm at now. And he's constantly elevating me. So he's done a lot for me. So I do have not on my part, but God did give me a really great testimony. But that doesn't mean that your testimony is less important than my testimony is. I have a guy that I work with, love him to death, a good Christian man. He's really getting back in the church for the last couple of years. And he's always worried about his testimony. He's always doubted his testimony. And I always tell him, look, man, your testimony is what God has done for you. It's what God has done for you. Yeah, and he's like, well, man, I've never really been through anything. He said, yeah, we didn't have a lot of money, but we never wanted for anything. So I was always able to go out and work and earn and make the money to feed myself and do things for myself. He said, so I don't feel my testimony is as good as yours or strong as yours. And I always have to tell him, man, my testimony is no better than your testimony. My testimony is what I went through and what God did for me, but that don't mean that your testimony has any less power, because there's people in your world that you can talk to that has been through the same things or have not been through the same thing just like you, that you can help by your testimony. So that's why I want y'all to understand the importance of testimony. And again, the Bible says, how do we defeat the devil? By the blood of the Lamb. In other words, putting your faith and trust in Jesus Christ and the word of our testimonies. I can't tell you how many times, my main ministry is called Lost Sheep, because I deal with a lot of people from the projects. I deal with people in jail. And I can't tell you how many times I went and started talking to people. And when they found out I was, serving the Lord or preaching, they didn't want to hear. They ain't want to hear nothing about God. But then I started sharing my testimony. And by the end of the testimony, they're in tears and they're calling on God to be their Savior. That's how important your testimony is. So that's why it's so important to protect your testimony. That's why you should do the things that you're supposed to be doing and stay away from the things you're not supposed to be doing, because it mars your testimony, and it kind of it cripples the work that you can do for the Lord. But it doesn't make you lose your salvation. It's just you're not as effective, so to speak. So I wanted to bring that point out. And I want to help y'all see from my testimony, again, you don't have to be perfect. but you do have to just give your heart to God. And once you really give your heart to God, God can use you in a mighty way. And I want you to know that you're never too far away from God to be used by him. So with that being said, I'm going to say a prayer and I'm going to get into it because I have a tendency to take too long when I do my testimony because God, it's not that I'm being long-winded, it's just that God has done so much for me. And honestly, this little time that I'm spending with y'all telling y'all is not going to even do it justice how much he's done, but I got to try to keep it short because my wife started giving me the stink eye when I get to talk too much. So I'm going to pray, then we'll go ahead and get started. Dear Lord, our Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today, Lord. Thank you so much for this beautiful day that we have. Thank you for giving us another opportunity to come here and honor and glorify your name. I thank you for calling me out of the life I was living, the rest that I was, Lord, and using me to do this mighty work that you have for me to do. It's such a blessing, Lord, and we so often don't realize the importance of this work and how many people's lives can be affected by this, by just our testimony, Lord. And everybody's testimony is not the same, but that doesn't mean that one person's testimony is more important than the others, Lord. It all depends on how often you use it and how willing you are to use your testimony to tell others about the Lord. So I pray that you be with the people here that's watching today, open their hearts and minds and get them prepared to hear this testimony. And I pray there's something from my testimony that will touch their heart and give them the want to do the same thing I did when you called me to preach and just give their complete heart to you to start serving your purpose and your will with their lives. As you just continue to watch over us all, send your spirit down upon me, definitely, Lord, and guide me in the direction so I don't babble on and talk too much and get off on rabbit trails, but focus on telling them the story of what you've done for me, how you took me from being the wretch that I was to being the man that I am now, which is serving your purpose and your will for our lives. And of course, Lord, just continue to keep your hand upon Brother John and his family, Lord. This church family suffered a huge loss with the church building burning down yesterday. But we all know that was just a building. It wasn't the church. The church is the people, and all the people are fine. And when I just ask you to give us the strength and encouragement we need so we can continue to do the work that you have for us to do. And River Lake Baptist Church continue to move on, serving your purpose and your will, and change the lives of those around us and our communities. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given. I ask you to bless this session here today. And we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, again, testimonies is very important. And that's why, I've been doing lessons since I've started. And it hit me that a lot of you that have heard me preach before have heard my testimony. If you talked to me before, I've told you my testimony, bits and pieces maybe. But it hit me that a lot of the new people that has come along has not heard my testimony in the whole part. So I decided I was going to do that today so you guys get to know why I do what I do. And you will see that I'm not perfect at all. I wasn't perfect when the Lord called me, but I was willing to have to listen to him and accept his call when he called me. And that's the only difference between me and the most of us in our Christian life, the willingness to accept his will for our life. So my testimony, most preachers, when they sign their Bibles, most preachers have been preached for a while, they have a verse that they use to write beside it. My life verse goes along with my testimony, and it's called, it's from Romans, the book of Romans 8:28. And it's in the book of Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. So you got to understand there's a key word there. It says all things work together for good. So that means that everything happens to you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it all works together for good for the purpose that God has for your life. And that's something that I couldn't understand initially until I really gave my heart to God, and then he revealed it to me, and then I was just like, wow, what a great God you are. But I want y'all to keep that in mind as I'm going through this story, because I went through a lot as a child, and a lot of things that I went through took me away from God for a while. I actually caught myself being upset at God, which all of us has had that point in our life before. But then when he showed me everything, he gave me the wisdom and opened my mind up to see what he was really doing with my life. It was such an amazing. I thank him for everything that I've been through every day. So remember that. So just like the church burning down Friday, we know, of course, with us, we're like, why would that happen? It was Good Friday. We was getting ready for, Easter. We weren't going to have a normal service like we normally have, of course, because of the COVID-19. But, we're still going to try to do a little something, and we was going to get some baskets together to take to the kids and things of that nature. And then just everything went up in flames. So it's so easy to have a negative outlook on that and just be like, oh man, why would God do that? If he loved us, why would he do such a thing? But we got to understand again, all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. So again, if your heart is truly given to serving the Lord, no matter what happens to you, good, bad, or ugly, it's going to all work out for the benefit of the Lord and his ministry in the end. So just remember that. So we get started with my testimony. My testimony starts all the way back in Memphis, Tennessee. Of course, like I said, John Stewart. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and to be specific, I have to be specific. North Memphis, Tennessee. I was raised up. I spent the first 17 years of my life right there on the corner of 6th and Mill over in North Memphis. Right by one of the worst projects at the time was one of the worst projects. There's no projects in Memphis that's good, but it was one of the worst ones in the area called Hurst Village. And a lot of people used to think I was from Hurst Village because I spent so much time there. Because there was all my dad stayed there, all my cousins stayed there. I had several family members that stayed all over Hurst Village, so I spent a lot of time there. But I was really from 6th and Mill, and I spent a majority of my time in this community center in our neighborhood called Greenlaw. That's really where I met a lot of positive influences that influenced my life. So there's a little bit background on my parents, and I always like to start off with this to kind of let you guys know where I came from. My mama and my dad, they were 14 and 15 when they had me. So they were really young, very immature. So, of course, they weren't ready for a baby like any 14 to 15-year-old would be. And but I have to say the first 5 years wasn't bad. My entire childhood wasn't marred, but the first 5 years was good. My mom, she was a hard worker. I think I got a lot of my dedication and my hard work from my mom and my grandmom because my mom was a hard worker. She had me her freshman year in high school, and of course she had to drop out a semester so she could have me. But as soon as the doctor cleared her to go back to school, she enrolled in the school that's called Tech. It's like Memphis Technical School, and that's somewhere you can go. Like if you got in trouble or things like that, you couldn't attend regular school. And she decided she was going to enroll. She enrolled in there, and she ended up finishing high school with a degree from Tech. Well, not a degree, a diploma from Tech. So she was a very hard worker. She worked when she wasn't at school. She worked, and I remember she used to read to me all the time when I was little, and I can even remember the book. That's how much she read to me and how important it was. She used to read my favorite book. It was called The Pokey Little Puppy. I never forget it. And she read the book to me so much that by the time I was 3 years old, I had it memorized. And she could read it, and maybe she wasn't focused, or she'd say something different from what the book said, and I would correct her, like, "No, Mom, that's not what the book said," kind of thing. So it was a blessing. So it wasn't all bad. But like I said, about 5 years old, she had another kid. She had my younger brother that I loved dearly as well, and she had him. In about a year or so after that, that's when the decline started. She got into, instead of working like she was at first, she started kind of meeting, random dudes and having boyfriends here and there because she was a single mom. And my dad, he was around, but he wasn't around. He never really came around to do anything for me. And I mean, really, with my story, when you hear this, it's the classic story of some boy from the hood, from the ghetto or whatnot. Father went around, a lot of bad influences around and things of that nature. But there was always something else there that separated me from everything else that was going on. It was something different. I didn't know at the time it was God's grace on my life, but I always knew there was something different about me. So anyway, so my mama, she started hanging with these guys, and next thing you know, she ended up getting into drugs. So start off with weed and things like that, and then it got a little bit heavier. She got into coke. I would have times where I would just kind of walk. Kids that you have no privacy with kids. So sometimes I would just kind of walk in the bathroom. She didn't have the door locked, and I saw her there with the mirror with the straw when the nose was bleeding. And at the time, I didn't really know what it was. And then sometimes, of course, she would leave the stuff sitting around, and I would see this powdery residue on the mirror, and I never knew what it was. And then as I got older, I kind of realized what it was. But that's what it started off with. So that was around like when I was about 6 or 7, and then by the time I was toward the end of when I was 8 years old, that's when it started getting really bad, and she ended up going to crack. She started smoking crack. And when she got on the crack, that's when my life just started to deteriorate really bad. She got to a point where she wouldn't work no more. She couldn't keep a job. So next thing you know, she ended up on welfare. So we got food stamps and things of that nature. But it never really benefited us because as soon as she got it, she owed most of it to the dope boys. Half of it she would owe to the dope boys. The other half she would spend to get more drugs. So a lot of times we didn't even get to see any of it. She didn't buy us no groceries, anything like that. She may have spent $50 on us, get us a few groceries that lasted for a couple of days, but most of it went to her drug habit. So it was real bad. I was real poor. So what ended up happening was we ended up living with my grandmother, and she ended up taking care of us. But the problem was she had my 3 other cousins living with her at the time. She had my three other cousins living with her at the time because their mother had passed away. So we had this one house, and it was like, my three cousins. It was me and my brother, my grandmother. Then I had another cousin that lived with us, and then we had some other cousins that would live from time to time. So it was like 10 people in this house. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, and just over the years, when my mama's health just declined, and the house declined, and I mean, it got bad to where, I mean, my grandmother was getting these little checks for my cousin there, but it couldn't support everybody. So we was very poor. I didn't have much going up. The house that we had, it ended up just falling apart because my grandmother, again, she couldn't work, so she was just going off the money that the government gave her. So she didn't have the money to keep the upkeep of the house. So the house was it got bad. I mean, it got to a point where really, when I look back on it, we probably shouldn't even been living in it. It had holes in the roof. There were certain rooms in the house that when it rained, you couldn't go in that room because it literally rained inside the house because the holes in the roof were so bad. You couldn't even go in there. There was holes in the floors. You had to watch where you step because the house was kind of sitting up. I don't know what you got at the carpenter turns or whatever, but it was sitting up about 2-3 feet off the ground. So when there was a hole in the floor, or the floor was weak in certain areas, you could actually step in a certain area and fall through the floor. So of course we knew we lived there and we didn't think of anything of it, but you had to be careful where you stepped or you would fall through the floor. And again, the same in the hood, we had roaches, we had rats everywhere. And I mean, our roaches and rats was notorious, man. I mean, they'd crawl across your face while you sleep at night. I mean, it was bad. And it was so bad that if you ever woke up in the middle of the night and you was going to the kitchen to get you a drink of water, what you would do, you would have to go in and cut the lights on, and then you would have to just kind of wait for like a minute or two to let the roaches clear out. That's how bad it was. And I mean, it would literally look, if you look in there, it literally looked like the furniture got up and just started moving, but it wasn't. It was just all the roaches had to clear out. And of course, they would clear out and you just go in and get your water or whatever and come back. So I was very poor growing up. I mean, like I said, I had nothing. My mother never bought me clothes. And I was always, I'll tell them, I'm a pretty big guy. I've always been a big guy. So I never really was able to get a lot of new clothes because my clothes were so expensive. So what I would do, what I had to wear, I would have to wear my uncle's hand-me-downs. So most of the clothes that I wore from the time I was 8 until I was about in high school were always hand-me-downs from my uncles. When I was about junior high, I started being able to hustle for myself, and I was able to buy my own clothes at that point. But most of the time I was wearing hand-me-downs. So I would wear and I mean, that's including underwear and everything. So, I mean, you can only imagine. I had to wear my uncle's old underwear, and I had this one uncle that he was just a player. He felt he was a player, so he had, like, bikini underwear. So I'm going to school, and I got on bikini underwear with leopard stripes on it. So it was pretty funny now that I look back on it, but it wasn't funny then. Because, when I was in the locker room playing football, I had to hide in the corner so nobody could see the underwear I had on, leopard stripes and things of that nature. So, but no, that's kind of how I grew up, and that's what I went with, was going through. And so that was as far as my aspect from my mom. And like I said, my dad was around. He literally hung out a block away from where I lived. He used to hang out in front of the store called Johnson. It was like, I mean, literally a block away from where I lived. Never came to visit. If I wanted to see him, I knew where it was at. But he never came to visit me. Never really brought anything. Like I said, the first few years he did, but then he just got into just drinking and smoking and hanging with his friends, and that's what most of his time was spent doing, hanging with them. And just to kind of give you a background on my dad, like I said, my mom was hard work. It's just the drugs got the best of her. And as far as my dad, same thing happened with him. The drugs got the best of him. But at least my mom was there. Dad, just a couple of stories kind of give you a background on him, and then I move on to show you kind of guy he was. I remember when I was younger in high school, I was looking to buy a car because I started working when I got to high school. As soon as I turned 16, I got a job, and I was having to catch the bus to get to work, and it was a long bus ride, and it was out in the East Tennessee where I was working at. So I knew that if I could get a car, I can take about 2-3 hours off of my day just waiting for buses and things of that nature. And plus I was playing football, wrestling. I mean, it was just I had a hectic schedule. I pretty much got up at 6 in the morning and my day didn't end till like 12:30 at night. And I just did that over and over again. Then I slept in on Saturdays whenever I was off. So I was, raising money to get a car. That I was working so hard, working overtime and everything, even though I was still in high school. I was still, playing football, and I was working overtime. So, I mean, I was almost killing myself. So, I had got to a point where I had raised like $400-500. I had got $400-500 saved up to get me a car. So, my daddy somehow found out about it, and I don't know, through just word of mouth, and he came to me one day, he approached me, said, man, I heard you saving money to get a car. I'm like, yeah, I am. He said, well, guess what? I got this friend that got a car he's trying to sell. And I'm like, really? And I was like, what it was? Now, this was back in about 96. Yeah, this was about 96, 90. It was my senior year in high school. And I was like, really, what is it? And he's like, it was a 99, it was a 90 Buick Skylark. So by that time, I mean, that was still pretty new, and it was pretty nice. So I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I said, well, how much is it? He said, how much you got? I'm like, well, I got, at the time I had like $400. I'm like, well, I got about $400. He said, all right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll bring it by here. He said, but now when I bring it by, don't drive it yet. I got to get the title and stuff on it. So he brought the car back. I mean, beautiful car, nice car, Buick. Like I said, it was a 1990 Buick Skylark. I mean, it just looked like it had barely been drive. So I was in heaven. And so I give my dad the $400. I think it was $400-$500 for the car. And he's like, all right, here go the keys, but don't drive it. So we had a big backyard, so I was able to kind of park in the backyard to keep it out of sight. But I'm a teenage kid, got my own first car. I had my license anyway. No way I was gonna sit and let that car just sit around. So me and my boy, me and my cousin, I call him my cousin, but we really are called like fourth cousin, but I mean, he was my dog. So we could take the car, we riding around in and everything. So like 3-4 weeks go by. I still don't have the title for this car. So I started getting suspicious, like, man, and every time I approach my dad about it, he just like, play it off. So finally I get suspicious, and I tell myself, like, it's something up with this. So I searched through the car. They had kind of cleaned the car, took everything out of the car, but they left one little piece of paper in the car, and they had a lady's name on there. So I got the piece of paper, I got the phone book, and I went to look through this lady's name, found this lady's name, and I found her name in the phone book, and I called her. And I asked her, I said, ma'am, do you have or own a Buick Skylark? She said, yeah, I did. I like, did? She said, yeah. She said, I had one, but my son stole it. I said, oh, well. I said, well, my dad sold it to me a few weeks ago. I said, but ma'am, if it's, your car, your son stole it, just, let me know where I can take it and you can pick it up, because I don't want to keep something that's not rightfully mine. So she was like, okay, so no, and that's another side story, but but in all of that, the police came and told me, like, when they found out the story, they're like, man, and the one guy said, he said, man, if I can find your dad, he said, I would beat the hell out of him. He said, I ain't gonna even lie. He said, I can't believe a man would do his son like that, but that's the kind of guy he was. So just to let you know, kind of how my dad was. And then another time I was in college, I remember I needed some money. He had got this big insurance thing. So I was like, well, let me hit him up and see if he'll help me out. So I called him and I'm like, man, could you send me some money? And his reply was, hey, I can send you a pack and you can sell it and then just keep the money from that. And I'm like, what kind of man would encourage his son to get into drug dealing instead of encourage him to stay on the path he on and stay away from that life? So again, that was just my dad. So he never really was around. He was a hustler. And I mean, he spent most of his time drinking and smoking with his boys and things like that. So we never really had a close relationship. But thank God, God had his hand on my life. And there was a lot of great people that I met over time, great men that stepped up to the plate and really helped me to get to where I'm at. So that was a blessing. So those are my parents. That was how they are. That was my influence. And then on top of that, I also had, like I said, I mentioned my grandmother. My grandmother's the one that raised me. She's the one that made me go to church every Sunday. That was her rule. Like, if you stayed in the house, you was going to church. I don't care how you felt. I don't care how sick you was. You got up and you went to church Sunday morning. That was her thing. If you lived in the house, you went to church. She didn't care who you were. She didn't care how grown you thought you was. You got up and went to church. So I was raised in a church, and it was a good church down in Mississippi, Halliburton Baptist Church, where I got my start at. Good people down there. But I'm just like every other teenager or kid. I didn't really pay attention when I was in church. A lot of times some preachers get the preaching, I zone out. Start counting the planks on the walls or something. A lot of times we'll sneak outside. I had to go to the restroom and I go outside and play. So I was in the church, but I wasn't in the church. I was there, but I wasn't there. I wasn't really paying attention. But the great thing about God's word is the Bible says God's word never returns void. So if you're ever around God's word, you've ever heard God's word, it's in your heart. You just got to make the choice whether you want to bring it to the forefront or not, or put it on the back burner, which is what I was doing at the time. And thank God, sometime down the road, it ended up coming back up. So, but my grandma raised me. She's the one who gave me a lot of the rules and the regulations that I live by, a lot of the standards I have. I picked up from her because she was a very hardworking woman. She was very, like I said, she was very into the church. She was one of the mothers at the church. Anybody know that? Got the church mothers know that, had the hats and all that. But she was really into the Lord, and she even had me, the first time I started reading the Bible is when she started going blind, and she had me read the Bible to her every day, and that's how I got my first Bible reading and got into the Word by reading it to my grandmother. And something else I used to have to do for my grandmother, the reason why I used to have to get up so early is she had diabetes. She developed diabetes when about 12, 13. She developed diabetes, so she started losing her eyesight. So when that happened, she taught me how to cook. So I used to have to cook all the meals for the family, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that, making the cakes. I did all of that. And also she used to have to take insulin shots. So I had to give her insulin shots. I would have to get up. My schedule was, when I was in high school, I would get up about 5, could make my grandmother breakfast, lunch, and everything, because it depended on if I had to work that evening or not, with enough food, and I would sit in the refrigerator so she can just go in and kind of feel for it, and so she'd be able to eat while I was gone. I would have to check her blood sugar, and I would have to give her insulin shots. That was our routine. So you can imagine when I had to leave for college, it was a little bit rough, but I'll get to that a little later. But as much as I did for her, she did more for me by getting me grounded in the foundation of God. And that's going to come back to play later on in the story. So that was just kind of the people that I was raised by. Also in my house, I had a cousin that I really looked up to. I call him my uncle, but he was really my cousin, but I call him my uncle because he was more of an uncle to me. And he kind of took me under his wing, always kept me protected, and he kind of raised me. And he was kind of the big guy on the block. He ran the block that we lived on. That was his corner that we lived on. So he ran the block, and he would let me kind of hang out there with him and his boys sometime, and I would just soak up their knowledge. And that was the thing, like I said, I was different from all the other kids, because all the other kids my age, they was running the streets doing silly things. But me, I was always hanging around adults, and I was always soaking up the knowledge they had, soaking up, the game, so to speak, that they was talking about. And that's why he let me hang with him. I never tried to inject myself into the conversation. I just listened, and I would soak up game. So he ran the block. Then I had another cousin I lived with. He was a big gang member. Then I had another cousin I lived with that was really into drugs and drug dealing and things of that nature. So I always felt like I was a sheep among wolves. Like everybody that I was around, that I associated with, they was either on drugs, sold drugs, murderers, pimps, prostitutes. That's what I was raised by. So naturally, if you look at statistics, I shouldn't be where I'm at right now. But thank God that God don't pay attention to statistics. God is the God of statistics, and He don't let the statistics determine our life. He let us determine our life by the decisions that we made. And it was decisions that I made that got me to where I am today. So one thing about me that was different from all the other people in the hood, I actually love going to school. I love going to school, man, because to me, school was my escape. That's why I know we're going through this COVID thing, and there's a lot of kids out here not able to go to school, and it's rough on them. Because that was my escape. You know what I'm saying? I went to school. I knew I was going to eat. I didn't have to worry about eating. I knew I was going to be able to eat. I didn't have to deal with whatever drama that my mom had going on at the time. I didn't have to deal with any of that because I was going to school, and that was kind of like my safe place. And I love my teachers. And really, my teachers were like my first inspiration for wanting a better life. Because a lot of them, they were from the hood. You can tell they were from the hood because they were respected. Because, we got this saying, real recognize real. So you can always tell somebody that's just never been through anything and had a great life. And you can tell somebody that's been through some stuff and they just made it to where they at because of, God's grace and their hard work and whatnot. So, I'm looking at these teachers and I noticed like, okay, I can tell they obviously from the hood. They got some hood ties. But yet they're not like everybody else I see in the hood. They're not walking around with their pants hanging down. They ain't got tattoos on their neck. They're not in and out of jail. They come into work. They nice. They clean. They professional. It's a good people. So I started noticing at a young age that maybe this hood life that I'm in, doesn't have to be my life. So I started working hard to give myself a better life, to put myself in a position to be successful. So what I started doing at a young age, I started hustling. We had a lot of old ladies that lived in our neighborhood, and because most of the drug dealers hung on the corners, they didn't like going to the corner store. So what they would do, they would call my grandmother. It was like kind of like my grandma was not looking at it. She was like a distributor. They would call her and be like, "Hey, I need something from the store." And my grandma would send me to one of her friends' house, and they would give me the money, and I would go to the store. They'd give me a list. I'd go to the store, get everything they needed, and then I'd come back and bring it back to them. And I didn't have no set price or anything. A lot of times it's just whatever they had. That's what they gave me. Some just give me the whatever the change was left over. Some would actually feed me. There's a couple of times where they fed me. Some would actually give me $5 here and there, and that was my hustle. And then also, when they needed the yards cleaned, I would go clean the yards. I would do things like that. So I started hustling at a very young age, and I started, making my own money so I can make my own way. And then on top of that, I was always involved in activities. Like I said, the community center there was Greenlaw. I spent a lot of time at Greenlaw. I was always in any class they was offering. I was in that class. I was also a Boy Scout. That really helped a lot in my life and get me to where I'm at. I was a Boy Scout from the time I was about 9 years old, and I ended up completing when I was 17, being an Eagle Scout. So I always stayed busy, and that's what kept me out of trouble. I was a lot of people like, man, you're not really black because of where I'm at and what I'm doing now. But I went through the exact same thing that anybody else in the hood went through. I just chose to keep myself from that life. I chose to make better decisions so that I didn't have to live that life. I knew that it was more than North Memphis out there in the world, and I wanted to see that. So that's why I work the way I work. So again, that's kind of my background. I like to give you that because that's where I started, and amidst all that, like I said, I was poor. I had to wear hand me downs and things of that nature, and it was rough. And by the time I was 10, my mother got really bad as far as crack. I mean, she was just whenever you think about crackheads or you see crackheads on the street, that's what she was. I mean, always running the streets, ducking in and out of the alleys, and that's rough on a kid because everybody in our neighborhood knew my family because of what my cousin that ran the block or just the people I was associated with. Everybody knew my family, so they knew who my mom was and they knew what she did. So when you a kid and you going to school, we always we call it checking each other. We get to checking, and somehow that always got brought up. Oh, that's why I had your mom the other night, and that's how they always shut me down because she had got so bad that where it could have been possibly it was true. You know what I'm saying? You had the right amount of money. She didn't care who you was. She could have had it, so it got bad. So that really hurt me, and when she got bad, I just started seeing a lot of things that a child shouldn't see. I saw her. One time I saw her get hit in the face with a 40-ounce bottle. A guy thought she had stole his dope and hit her in the face with a 40-ounce bottle, knocked all her teeth out. And there's just, as a kid, feeling so helpless, wanting to protect my mom and do something about it, and I couldn't do nothing about it. And that really hurt my heart. I once saw her get beat with a cane. A guy beat her with a cane till it really went to splinters. That's how bad he was beating her. And I saw that, and when you see stuff like that, man, it's rough. Like I said, she would never be at home. If she came in, she'd take a bath, she was right back out. And I would I remember writing her letters and all kind of notes saying, Mom, if you love me, you stop doing this. But the drugs just had her so bad that was her priority in her life. Her priority was when she was going to get her next fix. So that's why I grew up and I realized that, if I was going to be successful, I had to take care of myself and I had to take care of my younger brother as well because he was 5 years under me. So I just kind of took on the role as a child, about 19 years old. I just took on this role as, I'm going to get me and my brother out of this neighborhood and give us a better life than what this neighborhood can provide for us. So in the midst of all that, and this is the thing that I think that got me away from God the most. This is the thing that happened that I really didn't understand that got me away from God the most. When I was about 4 years old, I started I was getting molested, and I say molested. In reality, it was actually I was being raped. It was a guy on my dad's side of the family. One of I think he's my uncle or my cousin, but he started molesting me as a child when I was about 4 years old. And like I said, it was full blown rape. Like what I'm saying, I was being raped by this man, and then I also had a cousin on my mom's side that when I was a little bit older, about 7 or 8, that he started doing it too. So I was being from the time I was about 4, I would say so from 4 to I was about 10 years old, I was being raped by 2 different guys. And this is something that I kept secret for the longest. I really didn't start talking about this till about 6 years ago. So about 25 years went by before I started talking about this. But it's such an important part of my testimony. I knew I couldn't leave it out, so I started talking about that. But I think that there, amongst all the other stuff that was going on, I think that one there was what really took me away from God, because I was so hurt by what I was going through. Once I realized, honestly, first of all, I didn't even realize how bad it was until I was about 16. When I really learned what sex was, I didn't understand really how bad I had been violated till then. But then once it hit me, I was just like, how can God love me and allow something like that to happen? You know what I'm saying? I'm broke, I'm poor, I'm the worst off person because I was in a poor neighborhood and I was a poor person in the poor neighborhood. So, I mean, my life was bad. So when I started around 16, 17, that's when I started drifting away from God. I would still go to church because I was still in my grandmother's house, but I definitely wasn't there. There was being in church was the last place I wanted to be, hearing about this God that's supposed to love me. But yeah, he's letting these 2 men rape me for 6, 7 years that I had to endure that. So I'm like, how can there be a God that loves me and allow these things to go on? And we get that a lot. We get that we see the world and things that happen, and we see what tragedies happen to children, and we always wonder, like, how can there be a God that allow these things to happen? But again, we go back to Romans 8:28. all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. So, but again, that's something I didn't figure out till later. So now I'm about 16, 17. I'm going to fast forward through the story. 16, 17. Like I said, I first started getting my rebellion against God. Didn't want nothing to do with God anymore. Really didn't want to go to church. Got to a point where my grandmother had to make me go to church from time to time because I didn't want to go because I felt like God had wronged me by allowing these things to happen. But I kept working, kept grinding, saving the money, and kept doing good. Thank God I was good in school. I was, like I said, I love school. And something else I found out, as far as my mom, I forgot to mention this, and it's so important because it blessed my heart when I found out. I found out later on the reason why I think I like school so much. Well, my mama had me, like I said, she had me her freshman year in high school, and she ended up having to leave regular Memphis schools, Memphis City schools, and she started going to Memphis Tech school. And the first year she was fine when she was going, but then after that, my grandmother that kept me, she always worked, and then my other grandmother wanted to charge my mom to watch me, so she didn't have anybody to watch me. So she went to one of her professors. I don't know the guy's name. I hope I can find out someday. Hope he's still living. But she went to one of her professors and told him that she was going to have to drop out. And he asked her why. He said, "You doing so good? You working so hard? Why would you have to drop out?" And she said, "Well, I can't find anybody to watch my baby, and I can't just leave him at home by herself." So the guy told her, "Bring him to school with you, and while you in class, I will watch him and I'll keep him in my class." So my mom used to actually take me to school with her every day, and I was sitting in class with this professor while he taught. And the crazy part about it, my mama told, I said, "How did that work?" Because children are usually noisy and crying and all that. She said every time you was in class, you would sit there and listen to this man like you actually knew what he was talking about. And she said, "I never would cry. I was just sitting there and listen while the guy was teaching. I was sitting there and listen as if I was one of the students." And that might be why I love school so much now. So fast forward, I finished up school. At the time, about 16, 17, I was a Boy Scout. I finished up. I was an Eagle Scout. I finished up school. I played football. I wrestled. I ran track. I played basketball. I mean, I always had something doing because I knew one of these things would be eventually get me out of this hood. So I always had something going on. And amidst, not only that, I was hustling. So finally, senior year come along, I graduated. I was thinking I was number 6 in my class, so I was able to get a scholarship to go to school in Concordia, Minnesota, for my grades, and also guy wanted me to play football up there. So I was, packing my bags, getting ready to go, thinking I'm getting ready to go live in Minnesota. And then my grandma came and she asked me, she's like, "Look," she said, "I know you got to go." She said, I'm not going to keep you here." She said, "I know you can't stay in Memphis because if you stay in Memphis, you're going to end up dead in jail because of all the mess your dad and your mom keep up and your cousins and whatnot." She said, "So I don't want you in this." She said, "But the only thing I ask you is go somewhere close." She said, you're the one that's been taking care of me all these years." She said, "Now I don't know what I'm going to do. Hopefully somebody else will step up." She said, "But I know I got to let you go." She said, "But at least go somewhere close so if something happened, you can come home." So I'm getting ready to go to Minnesota. I mean, I didn't sign my paperwork. I got my scholarship and everything. And getting ready to leave. I mean, it was literally the week before I was getting ready to leave to go to Minnesota. And then through a series of events, I talked to another friend of mine that was already there. And he said he wasn't going back. So then I started having doubts. And then just so happened that same week, I got a letter from TSU saying that all my tuition was paid for, completely paid for. And I think I would have like $2,000 or $3,000 left if I used some funded some student loans or whatnot. So I was like, well, Nashville was right down the road, 2-3 hour drive. I said, well, it looked like I'm going to Nashville. So that's how I ended up in Nashville going to TSU. And I went up there, and since I didn't go to Minnesota, I didn't have my football scholarship. So I ended up having to go to TSU and walk on, which I did my freshman year. And did that in the freshman year, kind of made the squad. Then toward the end of my freshman year, I had a car accident, and I bruised my sternum, so I ended up not playing ball the beginning of my sophomore year. And then the spring of my sophomore year, I went and walked on again, made the squad again. Then I messed my ankle up. And after that, by the time that happened, I had my first kid, and I was just like, all right, football just ain't for me. So I just focused on my education. So I ended up focusing on my education, and I graduated from TSU with a degree in chemistry with a minor in biology. And that's how I became a chemist. So now, this is where the start. Most of this has been just introduction, and this is where God really started to come in and take over. So, of course, like I said, I left Memphis. I was about 17. It was right before, like a week or so before my 18th birthday, so I hadn't quite turned 17, but I left Memphis, and I went off to CSU. And now while I was in Memphis, like I said, I always avoided the drugs. I always avoided selling drugs. I avoided being in the gang. Now most of my friends were drug dealers and gang members. You know what I'm saying? Like I hung around. I was with them, but I just didn't do it myself. And that's why a lot of guys from the hood, they had respect for me because that wasn't my life, and I didn't try to be it. A lot of guys in the hood, you see these dudes that want to be drug dealers and gangbangers. They just want to be those things. That's not who they really are. There's some guys that's just what they is. They gangbangers, they drug dealers, they OGs and those things. I wasn't that. That wasn't my life. I wasn't about that life, so to speak. And I never tried to be that. And that's why the guys respected me because I never tried to be something I wasn't. And the funny part is, I look back on it, the thing that actually kept me from getting into gangs and selling drugs were other drug dealers and gang members. Because they always told me, like, even if I looked like I was even thinking about getting involved, they would stop me and look, man, you got more. God got something more for your life. You don't need to, this ain't your life. You don't need to be involved in this. And they would always turn me away from it. They would matter of fact, the drug dealer would threaten me. And it wasn't just because they was, protecting their territory. They were just like, look, if we ever see you out here in this corner, we're going to get at you. And just bottom line, like, don't let me see you out here in this corner. And what they would do, though, and show you how the hood raised, that's why I love North Memphis. I know I haven't been back in a while, but I love North Memphis to this day because it really raised me. What they would do is, whenever I got my report card, my mom, she would take my report card around to all the drug dealers in those stores in the area, and people would actually pay me for money for every A I had or every B I had or every C I had. So that was another one of my hustles, just getting good grades. So that's when, and then after she got bad, she wouldn't do it no more because they knew that they would give her money and she would go spend it and not bring it to me. But I got to a point where I was able to do myself. So that's what I would do. Every time I got on a report card, I went around to the stores and they either gave me money or gave me stuff out of the store. Rox's Grocery, those are my people. I love them to death. They was really instrumental in me just getting my education because they always took care of me, fed me, or gave me money or things out of the store. It was a store, we call it Mug Area. I think it's like Brian's Grocery now. They always hooked me up. Johnson, before it got tore down, they always hooked me up and they took care of me. And that was my encouragement to keep going forward. So a lot of times you see especially these hood moves and stuff like that, people will make fun of you for being smart or try to discourage you. But I had the opposite. I always had people pushing me. I always had people telling me that God was going to use me in a mighty way. I always had people telling me that it was more, I was meant for more than just hanging around the hood. I always had that from the people in the hood. I mean, again, the various dudes drug dealing, you know what I'm saying? They'll be their drug dealing. They'll be the ones telling me, hey, it's more for you. I don't want to see you out here. So it was such a blessing. So I say that to see, so I get to college, and like I said, I avoided all that at Memphis. Yeah, I smoked weed here and there, but I just never really was into drugs and the drug trafficking things of that nature. So you know what I'm saying? So I leave Memphis and I get to college, and the first thing I did when I got to college was stop going to church. That was the very first thing. There was no more getting up on Sunday mornings, going to church. Sunday morning was spent for sleeping in because I was partying and drinking the night before. That's what I did. I would Saturday nights, we was out all night, bowling or whatever, drinking, smoking, and then Sunday morning we slept in. So the first thing I did when I got to college, stopped going to church. So from the time I was 18 till I was about 24, those 6 years right there in those college years, man, I did what I wanted to do. I lived for myself. Everything that I wanted to do, everything I saw everybody else doing, I was getting involved in. Like I said, smoking to start off just smoking weed, with my roommate, and then started smoking here and there. And then it got to a point where, man, I was a smoker. I was like Snoop, you know what I'm saying? Like, I went to bed with a blunt. I went to bed with a blunt in my hand. I woke up with one in my head. Matter of fact, I didn't even go to bed till I rolled one, so I had Wake and Bake waiting for me when I woke up the next morning. I mean, that's just what I did. And then, so a couple of years into that, I'm partying, doing a party life or whatever. Then I started meeting these white guys that I worked at Taco Bell with me, and they was in the weed and stuff too. So I started hanging out with them, and then these white guys, they got me into shrooms. You know what I'm saying? Then they got me into shrooms and pills and stuff like that. So next thing you know, I'm taking mushrooms, which I ain't never did, and that blew my mind. That was some crazy stuff there. That was a crazy experience. But taking ecstasy pills, we started getting to a point where we was crushing up Oxycontin and things like that, hydrocodones, putting them on blunts, smoking them. Doing that. So I was just crazy, man. It just stuff I just never imagined doing. I was doing, but I stayed focused. I stayed on my school. I didn't let it affect my schoolwork. You know what I'm saying? I was one I got my schoolwork first before I started getting messed up. But I always make sure my schoolwork get done because that was one of the things my grandma taught me. She was like, make sure you get your education. She said it's so important. She said a black man with an education is a powerful thing. So she said, no, make sure that no matter what you do, make sure you get your education. That's why when I was getting ready to go to college, she didn't mind me leaving. Like, I mean, it hurt her. I can tell it hurt her, and it hurt me having to leave her. But she didn't want to keep me from getting an education because she knew how powerful it was and what effect it would have on my life. So I made sure I got my education, but I partied, man. I kicked it. So about a year or so, toward the end of my sophomore year, I get a phone call from my grandmother. And of course, I have nothing but utmost respect for her. I love her to death. I mean, she's really like my guardian angel to this day. Really responsible for me being where I'm at. So she called me and she told me, she said, look, I don't know how much time I got left on this earth. She said, I feel my time is coming near the end. She said, so I actually said, you know how much I did for you to get you where you at? So she said, the only thing I ask of you, she said, the only thing I ask of you is that when I pass on, promise me before I pass on that you're going to take care of your brother. She said, because I love your brother. She said, but I got to be truthful with you. She said, he's not as smart as you. He's not as wise as you. He's not as strong as you. He said, he's going to need your help throughout his life. She said, so promise me that you're going to be there for him when he needs you. So, of course, I'm partying. I ain't think I'm this second year of college. At this time, I'm 19, get ready to turn 20. So I'm not thinking no big issues. I'm like, yeah, grandma, yeah, all right, I'll do it, whatever. No big deal. So, man, not even a few weeks after she made that call, matter of fact, I never forget it because it was during the week of my final exams for my sophomore year. I got a call from my brother saying that my grandma had passed. And I was just like, man, that hurt my heart. So of course, I got my professors to let me take all my finals a little earlier, so I can get home and make it to the funeral. And I got home literally as the funeral was starting because I had to finish a test that morning, and I was able to get home as the funeral was starting. So went down there, went to the funeral, everything. Now at the time, my brother, about 3-4 years before this had happened, he actually got adopted not adopted, but his dad got custody of him because we had the same mom, different dad. So his dad had got custody of him because my mom was so bad on drugs that he was able to go down to DCS and prove that what she was doing, and they end up giving his dad legal custody of him. So we hadn't been living together for like 3 or 4 years at this point. But he was always my brother because I had always protected him when we was little. I was always there for him. When my mama would leave us in crack houses, I'll be the one that stay up all night to make sure nobody mess with him and touch them or anything like that. There was sometime where we would have to find our way home because she would just go get high and pass out, or go with somebody and leave, like, oh, I'll be right back, and she'd be gone. There was time where she would go into the crack house and smoke crack, and she'd just leave us sitting in front in the car. So I had always had to be my brother's protector, so it was no big deal when this situation came up. So now I'm about getting ready to start my junior year in college. And I get a phone call. My grandma had passed away, like I said, a few months before, right toward the end of my sophomore year. So I'm getting ready to start my third year of college. And I get a call from DCS in Memphis. And they say, we have custody. Your brother's in custody. Him and his dad has been getting into it. So his dad kicked him out. So now he's in DCS custody. And he said, if you don't want to come and get him, if you can't come get him or don't want to come get him, then he's going to have to stay in juvenile till he's 18 years old. So, of course, I couldn't leave my brother in juvenile. He was about 15 at the time, so I couldn't leave my brother in juvenile for 3 years. I already know what kind of life he'll have, in and out the system kind of thing. I didn't want him to go to a foster home. So I was like, but what can I do? I'm a third year. Like, I was working at the time. I was working at Taco Bell. I would put myself through work, and at that time too, I had my first kid by that time. So I mean, I was already taking care of my wife. She was my baby mama at the time. We had 2 kids at that time, and now I got this brother situation come up. So I'm like, what can I do? And I was working. I had my own apartment by this time. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna do what I can do. Put in the application, see if I can get them. If I can't, then I did my best. I do my due diligence. But I didn't expect for them to give custody of a 15-year-old to a 20-year-old college student. Well, God had his hand in it. When God didn't think it's possible, because I actually went down there and went to court. And at the age of 20 years old, I got legal custody of my 15-year-old brother. So now I'm thinking like, okay, this is my brother. We've always had love for each other. I've always taken care of him. This is my boy. You know what I'm saying? Now, he had got into smoking weed as well. And like I said, I was smoking weed at the time, pretty heavy. So I'm like, well, this is my boy. We're going to kick it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have us a bachelor pad. We're going to have some girls and we're going to kick it. And I'm not even thinking, and I know now, teenagers are jerks, man. Anybody that raising teenagers know exactly what I'm talking about. It might sound mean, but they're a jerk. And I get this boy up here, and he was hard headed as hell. There was no other way to put it. He was so hard headed. Man, he got in so much trouble. He did so much stuff. And I mean, he was constantly getting in trouble. I'm constantly having to go up to the school. And it all started because he started hanging with the wrong kids in school. He was hanging with kids in school. They were smoking weed and wasn't really trying to do nothing with their life. So he got in with them. And see, he failed a couple of times. So by the time he really started getting bad, he was about 16, 17, but he was in the 10th grade. I can't remember exactly, but I know he was behind like a year or two. So, and I had explained to him, like, son, bro, if you go to school, I said, you're already 2 years past. I said, if you go to school and you get in trouble, they're going to kick you out of school. So you need to just kind of chill and don't stay away. But of course, he was hard headed, and he ended up getting, kicked out of school, whatnot, for fighting and things of that nature. And he was about to be 18, and I think he was still just in 11th grade. So they're like, look, we're gonna have to go and kick him out, and which ended up happening one time. So when, again, he started hanging with the wrong crowd. I smoked weed, he smoked weed, and so we smoked it together. And like I said, I was professional. I wasn't like these guys going in like dime bags and 20 bags. Every time I went and read up, I got an ounce because I knew I was going to smoke the whole thing. It wasn't no point of constantly buying these nickels and dimes because I was just wasting time and money. So every time I went, I bought about an ounce. And because of that, I got it for cheaper prices because I was, one of my dealer's favorite customers. So I always got it for pretty decent prices, and he had pretty good stuff. So it got to the point like when my brother and his friends started hanging around, and of course they was mostly high school kids as well. They started hanging around, and they was wanting to smoke as well. So what they would do, they're like, man, look, why don't you just peach them something out of the bag? And that's what I would do. So what I would do is I would peach them a little bit out of the bag. I peach them a gram here or there, charge them $5 or whatnot. And you know what I'm saying? And they kept them because it kept them from going to other people that can be trying to do them wrong and screw them over, and it also kept them getting in trouble. I knew exactly who they was getting it from. They were getting it from me. That was my thinking, of course, at the time. Because like I said, seeing blinds your rationality, and I'm thinking, well, at least getting it from me is no big deal. So that's how I kind of started. Just getting them a gram here and there, setting them a dime and nick, just eyeballing them. So, but what happened was because I smoked the good stuff. And I always hooked them up, word kind of got out. And it got to the point where next thing you know, I had all these little high school kids come to me for green all the time. So, I mean, I would buy an ounce and literally like the next day it'd be gone, because I was just nickel and diming, but it got to a point where I was like, oh, this is pretty cool because I would basically smoke about a quarter of it and sell the rest. So I was kind of just getting my weed for free kind of thing. So it was, keeping money in my pocket, so to speak. So this is pretty cool. So it got to a point where I kind of started building up clientele because all these kids got word out like, hey, you want to, some good weed, go to, his brother, and he got it kind of thing. So next thing you know, man, I'm going through an ounce like every other day, and then it got to a point I was going through every day. So the guy that I was getting it from, he was also in college as well. He was, just a college kid. He wasn't no big time drug dealer, nothing, but he was just like, man, look, you can't be coming over here every day. You're going to run me hot. He said, so I tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to give you a quarter pound. He said, I'm going to give you a quarter pound. And when you get rid of that, bring me the money back, and I give you another one. I was like, bet. But then I started thinking, like, well, if I'm gonna do all that, then I need to if I'm gonna have that much, then I need to get, be serious about it. So what I did was I went and got me a scale, started buying me baggies, and without even realizing, not trying to be gangster, no Scarface, nothing like that, but without even realizing, I got into dealing drugs just like that. It just happened just that quick. I wasn't even really thinking about it. I got sucked into it. So next thing you know, of course, I got the quarter pound. I got cheaper prices, so I was able to give out even fatter sacks for cheaper, where everybody else was nickel and diamond dudes. Sell you, tell you it's 2 grams and it's really 1.5. I'm hooking you up with 2.2. So word got around like, man, this dude got the fat sacks. He got it for the cheap. He got the good stuff. So next thing you know, man, I just had built this little empire real quick on selling weed. So I went from a quarter pound. It took me about 3-4 days to sell a quarter pound, and then he like, okay, well, let me give you half a pound. So then I got the half a pound. In less than a week, I sold that. So he's like, all right, man, let's try a pound. So next thing you know, man, well, again, not even realizing, not thinking, I'm getting pounds of weed, and I was only paying $400 to $500 for it. So I'm getting pounds of weed for $400 to $500, and I'm selling pounds of weed, just selling nickels and dimes in like less than a week. Like basically every 5 days I had to go, get another one. So then of course I was like, well, I'm just gonna start getting them 1, 2 at a time. So of course when I got 2 or 3, he sold them to me for 4. If I only got 1, he sold them to me for 5. So anybody know drugs and know how that breaks down. Basically, you get a pound, you got 16 ounces. Then you got 20. Y'all can do the math. You got 16 ounces in a pound. Then you got 28 grams per ounce, and I was selling each gram for $5. That was a lot of, and I was only paying $400, $500, between $400 $500, depending on how much I got for it. So that was a lot of money, man. That was a lot of money, and of course, when you get into drug dealing, even though I was just selling weed, because that was my thing, I said, well, I'm just gonna sell weed. But when you get into weed selling, then other things come along, other opportunities. So I met a guy that had ecstasy. Next thing you know, I'm selling ecstasy pills. Then I met a guy that had, to get oxycontins or hydrocodone. So I started selling that because while I was selling that, I was living in Bellevue out of Nashville at the time. And it was kind of a white neighborhood. It was a nice neighborhood, and they just like pills and stuff like that. They like weed, but they like the pills and stuff. So I had to give supply and demand. So I had to start getting into that. So got into selling that, had pills, I had ecstasy and all that. But the one thing I said I never would sell was cocaine. That was my thing. That was my stopping point. Like I'm not going to sell cocaine because I feel that's what ruined my life. The cocaine been in my life. My mom getting on that coke, it was really ruined my life. So I said, no, I sell everything else but that, and that's what I did. I literally sold everything else but that. But eventually, I did have a guy that was staying with me that he was selling that. So, for me to rationalize, I'm like, well, I'm not selling it directly, but yet he was selling it and he would bring me money from it from time to time. So technically, I still was selling it. I just wasn't doing it directly. I was doing it in a roundabout kind of way, just being ignorant, like I was getting away with doing it, So that's what we had going on, and man, things were good, you know what I'm saying? So for like the next year and a half, man, everything was popping. And then you look at these rap videos these days. You see the guys, they got all these nice cars and they got all these nice clothes and they got these nice cribs and all that stuff. I had that. You know what I'm saying? I was making enough money where I was making enough money where I was putting myself through college. I was taking care of my brother. I was also taking care of my baby mama, like she was baby mama at the time, taking care of her. We had by this time we had 3 kids. We had our 3 boys, our first 3 boys. And I'm doing all that and paying for college. I mean, I was making heck of cheese. And then I had this nice apartment out in Bellevue. I had 2 or 3 cars, clothes. I mean, just everything that these dudes be wanting. I had that. So it was it was on the popping. I thought I was living a life, but the crazy part was in the middle of all that. I had all that going. You know what I'm saying? We had girls in and out of the place at all times. Like honestly, my house became like a party house. Like if you can, because I was working at the same time, still working, still going to school, so I wasn't always at the house. And I kind of put the business in my brother's hand. I just kind of managed this kind of thing. So you can come to my house at any time. It was always some girls there. It was always some dudes there, and we was always kicking it. I don't care what time of day it was, what time of night. We was always kicking it. I mean, it was nice and it was lovely, but I still wasn't happy. I had all those things that we always think we want. I had the money, I had the cars, I had the clothes, I had the girls, but yet I still was missing something, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And a lot of times when I was with my boys and we was kicking it, I was happy, smiling, we kicking it, drinking whatever, playing video games. But when I was by myself, man, I was always depressed because it was always still something missing. Even though I had all that, it was always still something missing in my life, and I could never figure out what it was until one day God came in. But I was always missing. I had all these material things, but I didn't have the thing that I really needed, which was the love of God in my heart. And you know what I'm saying? I can feel that. So I was sitting around depressed and just figured out where am I gonna go. Like I didn't got out of North Memphis, got to managed to stay away from selling drugs and doing all those things, and now I'm doing this very thing that I said I would never do. So that went on about a good 2.5 years. Never got, thank God, knock on wood, never really got caught, never got caught. Got put over a couple times with a blunt, but I never got caught with anything major on me, so I didn't really have no record or anything like that, because I just made sure I always managed the way I did things, didn't do things ignorantly. So fast forward, and to get to the meat of the story, fast forward, it's 2003. I never forget it, and this is where the story started to change. It was 2003, it was December 2003. Like I said, I've been selling this dope. Everything has been going good, living life lovely. But I was still depressed. So one day, this guy came to me, and he sold coke. Like this guy, he was a coke dealer, and like I said, I sold weed and everything else but coke. So he hit me up one day, and like I said, I was making a lot of money. So he hit me up one day. He came by to get some weed from me because he would get weed for his coke customers, and if my customer needed coke, that so we kind of exchange business kind of thing. So one day he came and hit me with a business proposition. It was I never forget. It was the first week of December 2003. So he hit me up. He said, man, look. He said, you making all this money off just weed and these little petty pills. Like, man, imagine how much more money you would make if you sold coke. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, man, look. He said, with the connects you got and connects I got, he said, man, what we need to do, we need to get us a house. He said, we can set us up a house out of North Nashville. He said, I already got a place I've been, kind of looking at. He said, we can set us up a house. You got the weed connect, I got coke connect. You know what I'm saying? We can just get by this house, you know what I'm saying? Put bars on the windows, everything, and it just set it up and just have us a trap house. And he said, with your connect, with the weed you getting for $400-$500, the good stuff you getting from there, and what I'm getting with this coke, he said, man, we can make a hell of money. So I thought about it, and at the time, now at this time, I'm getting close to graduating. Like I said, we had the 3 kids, and I had my brother I'm taking care of, and then not only that, I had this little crew of kids that I was taking care of as well that didn't have a father figure. I was trying to kind of be a father figure to them, so I'm taking care of them as well, feeding them, you know what I'm saying, making sure they got school clothes and things of that nature, and just trying to keep them on the straight path. So I got all this going on. So I'm like, man, I am kind of stretched thin right now with all these people I'm taking care of. I could use the money, but I had said I would never sell coke, So I told the guy, I said, I tell you what, man, this is a big decision for me because I already said that I would never do that. So I said, I tell you what, give me a few weeks to think about it, and I'll let you know. He said, all right, man. He said, because I want to go and get the house. He said, it's going to take some while to get the house and get everything set up. He said, I would love to be operating by the time summer coming around, like toward the end of spring, summer. So he's like, I love to be operating then. So, man, you need to hurry up and make your decision. So after I told him that, for the first night, at this point, like I said, I hadn't been to church in probably 5-6 years. Really hadn't been praying at all. Definitely hadn't been reading my Bible. Been doing none of that stuff. So at this point was the first time in 5 or 6 years where I called out to God. And I called out to God wholeheartedly. But I didn't do it as a servant. I called out. Actually, what I did was kind of really ignorant the way I went to God. But, you know what I'm saying, I knew this was a big move for me. And I knew whatever decision I made, whether to sell the coke or not, was going to be, is going to have a major effect on my life. So I wanted to make the right one. So for the first time in 5 or 6 years, I really called out to God. But again, I didn't go to God humbly. I went to God actually pretty arrogant. Thank God he didn't strike me down. So what happened one night, I was just kind of, walking back and forth over this decision I need to make. So I just told God, I said, look, God, I said, honestly, man, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if this whole guy in the sky watching us all the time, I don't know if it's real. I said, honestly, when I look back over my life, it's hard to me believe that it's real. Look at all the stuff I've seen, the stuff that I went through because of my mom and my dad. I like, if you could have put me anywhere, but you put me in the middle of North Memphis, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Memphis, and then I was the poor kid in the poor neighborhood. I've been molested for 5 or 6 years, and I just had this whole list of things that I was like, that made me feel that he wasn't real, and if he was real, he definitely didn't love me or have no love for me. So I'm talking to God, look, so I said, I tell you what, I said, this guy's made me this offer to sell coke, and I don't want to get into that because I know the kind of life that comes with that. And I like, with me, and the one thing about me, I don't, part of my French, but I don't half-ass anything I do. Anything I do, I'm in it 100%. I don't believe in just, I'm going to dip my toe in and see if it's all right and test it out. If I decide that I'm going to do something, I'm going to put my heart and soul to everything I do, 100%, no holding back. So I told God, I said, man, you know how I am. I do everything 100%. So if I sell this coat, I know where this is going to take me to. I know what kind of life I'm going to live. And I also know that I'm not going to have any time for you, or I'm not going to have any dealings with you. So I said, you need to either show up and show me without a doubt that you are 100% real, or you can just leave me alone and let me live my life, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's what I said. And again, I didn't get on my knees. I didn't pray to God. I just kind of talking to God from my heart, so to speak, I guess you could say. And I just told her, I said, man, you need to show up and show me without a doubt that you're real, or I'm just going to live my life and do what I want to do, and I'm definitely not going to have nothing to do with you. And I just prayed that prayer, didn't even think nothing else about it, just went on about my day. So fast forward, like I said, this is December. A couple of weeks go by. Everything was about normal. And then the week before Christmas, I never forget, the week before Christmas, I remember I'm like, man, kids was getting out for the winter break or whatever, the Christmas break. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, these kids about to be out of school. They're going to be wanting to smoke. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do, all the money I had all the money that I had, and I love you too, Sister Debbie. All the money I had saved up, stacked up, I was determined, like, man, this finna be, you know what I'm saying? This finna be on and popping. So I just took all the money. I paid all my bills. I had some money left several thousand left over. And I said, I'm just gonna buy all dope. That's all I'm gonna do. All the money I'm got, I'm gonna go get me some pills. I'm gonna go get me some shroom. Everything that I would normally sell, I'm just gonna stock up because I know we about to have a great winter break because these kids about to be out of school. They ain't gonna have nothing to do, and they're gonna be looking to smoke and just get messed up. So that was my idea. So I went and I read up, man, and I spent every dime I had on, you know what I'm saying, except for the stuff to buy food or whatever. But I spent every free penny I had on drugs. So, and at this time also I hadn't bought my kids Christmas present either because I just knew I was gonna make it back. It wasn't gonna be no big issue. The day that I went and I read up and bought those drugs, man, my phone stopped ringing. I mean, completely. Like for the next 2-3 days, I might have sold like a dub. I mean, so I was flat broke. I had, like I said, I had money for gas and money for food and things and that to feed my family, but I didn't have money for anything else. And I didn't even have bill money. I mean, every cent I had, I put into this dope. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting in my house with a closet full of dope and nobody to buy it. So now it's December 23rd. You know what I'm saying? The morning, I'll never forget it. It was the morning, no, it was maybe the 22nd. It was a couple of days before Christmas. And I'm sitting in my house. I'm dead broke. Christmas coming around the corner, and I ain't even got the money to buy my kids Christmas presents. So now I'm starting to get depressed, and I mean major depressed. I mean to the point where I was like, man, what's the point of me living? Maybe I should just kill myself because I felt like I was cursed anyway. Because no matter what I did, I never could get ahead. No matter what I did, I could never get it. Every single time I came on some bright idea to do something to get money, something always came up and took that money from me. It's like I would go, 3 steps forward and 5 steps back. So I just got tired of it. My whole life had been like that up to this point. And now we got this situation come up. And no, I'm supposed to be this big bad drug dealer. And I don't even have the money to buy my kids stuff for Christmas. So one of my guys that was in my group, he was this young kid. He was still in high school, but he had been living with me because him and his mom was kind of, getting into some things. They just saw, he was just trying to be grown and didn't want to follow his mama's rules. So his mom was like, well, you can't follow my rules, get out. So he came and started staying with me. And so he saw me. And he was just like, man, what's wrong? Because he could tell something was up. I said, I don't think I'm able to get my kids enough for Christmas. And he like, what? He said, man, all this money you making, like you this big drug dealer, how can you not get your kid enough for Christmas? I said, man, I thought the same thing. I said, but man, my phone has not rung in the last 3-4 days, bro. I said, I might have stole a couple of dubs in the last 3-4 days. I said, I got product, but I ain't got nobody buying it. I said, hell, I can't go to Toys R Us with a couple of ounces. Like, I need to get them toys. I said, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So little bit known to me, what this kid did, he went back and talked to his mama, apologized to his mom, and was just like, Mom, look, I know we've been going through our thing, but this guy that I'm staying with needs some help. Like, he's not going to be able to buy his kids anything for Christmas because he's been taking care of me. And, saying, kind of lied a little bit, but he's been taking care of me and, all these other kids and helping them out. So now he don't have money to get his kids nothing for Christmas. And I was wondering, could you help me out? So, and this kid, he was and I like to know all the details of the story, he was a white kid. And I say that because at this point, I've never really had, in the hood, we always talk, they're our enemies. I never really had a white person do anything that's nice for me for what this lady did. So I would like to point that out. So he goes and tells his mom, and the day before Christmas Eve, man, this lady pulls up in front of my house, my apartment. And again, I'm supposed to be the big bad drug dealer. She pulls up in front of my apartment with a minivan full of toys for my kids. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it wasn't like some stuff she went to a thrift store got. It was like brand new, everything. And really, my kids had the best Christmas they had ever had because this lady gave it to them. And she didn't want no thank yous or nothing. She just did it, to help me out because I've been helping her son, but she did to help me out and my kids to give my kids a good Christmas. And what that did, for the first time, I got humbled. You know what I'm saying? I got humbled. And I started thinking like, man, I'm supposed to be the big bad drug dealer, and yet I can't even do something as simple as buy my kids Christmas presents. Like what? And then I started really thinking like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I doing this hustling? Like I got out of North Memphis to avoid this, and yet I got sucked right into the very thing that I've been trying to avoid my whole life. Moved 200-300 miles away to avoid this, and yet I'm still in it. Why am I doing this? Because obviously it's not for my benefit. If I can't even do something as simple as buy my kids Christmas presents, then it's really not benefiting me. And really I'm taking all these unnecessary risks for nothing. So I started looking at it and I started thinking it wasn't about the money, to be honest. It was about rebellion. That was the ultimate, and I was getting ready to take that next step to sell coke. So what I was doing, it was the ultimate disrespect to God, especially what my grandmother had put in my life, and the way she had raised me, for me to be doing the things that I was doing was the ultimate disrespect to God. Because when I started looking at why I was doing what I was doing, it was about the rebellion. I was addicted to the lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? I love when I walked in the house and everybody was quiet until I walked by. You know what I'm saying? I walk in the house and everybody just shut their mouth till I walk by and go to my room or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I love that being able to have, girls over whenever I want to. I love the lifestyle I was living in, and that's how I realized, I love the being able to go buy whatever clothes I wanted to. And then I also had some hookups in in the Beverly area we stayed. I knew somebody at just about every business out there. So anything I wanted, free movies, free pizza, whatever I wanted, I just went to any restaurant and man, I had a guy there. You know what I'm saying? Because they just about everybody at work and stuff like that, they did drugs. So I just had these hookups, and I'm thinking I'm this big guy, but really I wasn't. I was a nothing, man. And that's what God was showing me. I was nothing. What I was doing was nothing. I was taking all these unnecessary risks, and for what? I couldn't even buy my kids Christmas present. I had to have this little white lady come buy my kids Christmas present. So that humbled me. That brought me to my knees. But my thing was, I was like, man, what else am I to do? I don't know any other way. I don't know anything else. All I know is this hustle that's in me. I don't know what else I can do. God, you got to show me a way, kind of thing. So that's what I was thinking, like, what else am I going to do? But at no point up until this point, I had ever thought of just giving it to God. And see, we do that same thing. We try to handle all our problems on our own, and we never really consider giving it to God. So that's what happened. I had never thought of just giving it to God, because it just, to me, that wasn't an option. Like I said, I had been in church forever, so I wasn't about to put this. I was thinking this is something I had to solve, but it wasn't a problem that I was going to be able to solve, So I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, what am I going to do? And then something just started talking to me. It was my first time. You hear people talk about spirit talking to you, spirit guiding you, kind of thing. That was the first time I heard my spirit talk to me. And it ain't that my spirit hadn't been talking. I had just been ignoring it all this time. And I didn't hear a voice. I don't want y'all to think I heard a voice. A lot of us, we call it our conscience. But really, it's not your conscience. It's your spirit talking to you when you got that little voice telling you not to do this or you need to do this kind of thing. Unless you're crazy, and then you got a voice telling you to do some other stuff, and that's on some other stuff. But, my spirit started talking to me, and it just kept telling me I need to confess. And that's what it just kept, and that's what I kept. At the end of the day, that's what I just kept hearing. You need to confess. You need to confess. You need to confess. And I think, like, what if I need to confess? Everybody knew that I sold drugs. Everybody knew. If you was in the Bellevue area around 2000, between 2002 2004, you knew who Big Wop was. That was my drug dealer name, Big Wop. Everybody knew who I was. So and it wasn't like I hid it. I didn't. Why do I need to confess? But something just kept telling me, you need to confess. You need to confess. You need to confess. And I just kept hearing this voice, not hearing a voice, but this something just kept telling me I need to confess. So, the days went on, still wasn't making no money, still wasn't getting no calls, still was broke for the next week. And, but something just kept telling me I need to confess, So finally, the voice, so to speak, got so loud that I couldn't ignore it. And I never forget, it was December 31st, 2003. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, all I was doing, I already wasn't really sleeping. I never really slept. I just kind of took cat naps here and there. I never really slept. But, you know what I'm saying? But I really couldn't sleep now because this thing inside of me kept telling me I need to confess. So I'll never forget, it was December 31st, 2003. I was laying in my bed. It was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just could not go to sleep. I only had 3 hours to get some sleep, and I could not go to sleep. So finally, I just got up out of my bed. I went and sat at my table, and I had a glass table that I broke my drugs down on. Whenever, if any of you know anything about drug dealing, especially, and I didn't get dro. I wouldn't let y'all know. I'm trying to make myself seem bigger than what I was. I sold mid-grain or just regular because it was just much easier to move. It was much cheaper and people get more of it, So I never sold dro, so it always had a certain amount of stems and seeds in it, So I would break it down on this table, and this glass table, so I didn't lose anything because I knew it was gonna be a certain amount of shake with it as well. So I go and I sit at this spot where I'm knowing I'm breaking my drugs down there, and I just started writing. I took out a writing pad. I never forget it. I just started writing. And I wasn't even thinking of what to write. It's just the words just started coming to me, and I just started writing. And before I knew it, man, I had a 7-page letter. And on that 7-page letter, it was about 5 or 6 pages. I don't know exactly. But it was a 7-page letter, and I was just detailing everything I had been doing. I was talking about all the girls I was hooking up with, all the drugs I was selling, just the way I was living everything I can think of that I was doing that I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing, I wrote on this paper.
So when I got done, it was just like, I can't explain it. Just like I had this relief, like I got it off my chest. But then someone was like, all right, won't you need to send it to somebody. So I'm like, man, who can I send this to? Like, who would want to hear this? And then I started thinking about who I could send it to. And what popped up in my head was this guy, his name was Jake Allen. Now, who Jake Allen was, he was my scoutmaster when I was a Boy Scout. And he ended up being one of those positive men that I was telling you guys about that helped me get to where I am today. And he was very positive in my life. You know what I'm saying? He really became like a dad to me. Matter of fact, to this day, I still call him a dad. He called my grandkid. He'll call me, but hey, how my grandkids doing, kind of thing. You know, I send him pictures and keep him updated on how the family doing, because that's how close we were. But the thing about Mr. Allen was he was real strict. He was a military dude. He was strict. He didn't play about drugs. He was really into the church. You know what I'm saying? Real spiritual guy. And I knew that if I told him what I was doing, that it wasn't gonna be good for him. He wouldn't, like, much as he loved me, I knew he would be upset with the direction I had took. So, but some just told me send it to Mr. Allen. So I was like, all right. So I got up. I literally got out of my bed, got an envelope and a stamp, put it on, and I drove to the mailbox at like 3, 4 in the morning. I don't know how long it took me to do it, but it was about 4 or 5 in the morning. It was pretty early in the morning. Drove to the mailbox, put that letter in the mailbox, and then I went back home and I got I got about the best hour of sleep that I ever had. You know, like, I mean, just completely, relieved kind of sleep. So I just had this peace about me. So I put it in the mailbox, and like I said, it was December 31st, 2003. So I went about my day. That night, I had to work that day. That night when I got off work, my phone would not stop ringing. I mean, my phone started ringing, man. I guess it was New Year's and everybody want to celebrate. And man, I'm talking about, it was on and popping. So in one day, all the drugs that I had saved up, that I hadn't been able to sell, I sold it all in one day. And then after I sold it all, I went to re-up. And when I went to re-up, my guy was like, man, look, I got some better stuff, but I'm still going to give you the same price because, you know what I'm saying, you've been so consistent. So I like, bet. So I went and I got some better drugs for cheaper prices, came back home, sold that out in like a day or so. So then I went back, same deal. He had said, man, I got some even better stuff, and I'm going to give you, he said, man, I'm going to knock 100 off. So I'm like, man, what is going on? So for 3 times in 1 week, I completely sold out of everything I had. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, and then this thing just really took off of me, man. Like, all of the girls, and I hate telling this part because my wife, she always give me the stink eye about this, but I mean, it's part of my testimony. This is where I was at the time. Because, like, again, I wasn't in the right mindset. I wasn't where I need to be with God. So I wasn't living like I was supposed to be living. So I was getting the girls that I wanted, all these girls that I had always wanted to hook up with. I had just, my confidence was so high that I was just walking up to a girl like, man, hey, you need to come holler at me later on. And they were like, okay, kind of thing. So I mean, for like this next few weeks, man, I just had everything I wanted, I was getting. Every time I went back to re-up, I was getting better drugs for cheaper prices, selling out, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I just had money just falling out the wazoo. So in the meantime, this guy that offered me to sell the coke, he comes back. And he's like, look, man, what's we going to do? Because it had been a few weeks that I had told him. And at the time, I was like, well, man, honestly, I said, bruh, I'm doing so good right now. I can't see myself bringing coke into the mix. I know that coke is a whole nother animal. I said, I'm really not trying to get into that life. I saw what it did to my mom. I saw what it does to families. I said, and I'm not really trying to get into that. I said, but, so he's like, man, you been having me waiting all this time? You gonna say? I said, I tell you what, bro. I said, man, give me a few more weeks. I said, it's not a definite no. I said, but honestly, things are going so good for me right now. I just don't see the point of bringing this extra drama into my life, which is what coke was going to be. So I said, give me a couple more weeks, man, to think about it. Give me about 3 more weeks to think about it, and I'll let you know. So like, all right, man, but don't be BSing, man, because we need to get this started. So I like, bet. So I go another couple of weeks, and like I said, for these next few weeks, man, everything was popping. Everything I wanted to happen was happening. Everything I wanted, I was getting. And I mean, it actually felt, and it's gonna sound crazy, say your heart is deceitful above all things. I actually had convinced myself that maybe this is what God want me to do. He just want me to sell dope. And you know what I'm saying? Because the thing was, the guys that, like I said, I didn't do the selling. I just kind of managed it. I just got the product and I managed it. My brother, my brother and his friend was the ones that did most of the leg work, so to speak. But the kids that was selling for me, and this is going to sound crazy, but this is what I had them do. Like, I told them, I said, if you want to sell for me, I said, this is one thing I don't do. I don't hang around losers. I said, so if you're going to sell for me, I said, one thing you got to do, you got to have perfect attendance in school. I said, you got to have at least a 3.0 GPA. And that sounds ridiculous, giving kids no grade requirements for selling drugs, but you got to look at it like this. And this is why I broke it down. So I said, look, man, I said, look, if you missing school all the time, you going to school, getting in fights, getting in trouble, you got a 1.8 GPA, whenever something happens in school, you're going to be the first one they look at. You're making yourself a suspect just by your behavior. I said, but if you got perfect attendance, you got a 3.0, 3.5 GPA, never get into trouble, staying to yourself. I said, man, your teachers will catch you with dope and they'll let you slide because they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Because they'll be like, no way, this kid is doing this because maybe it's just a mistake. And they will let you slide. I said, that's how you get that benefit of the doubt. That's how you fly on the radar. And I told these kids that, man, and these kids started doing it. So these kids that when they first started, hanging with me, most of them had either dropped out of school or was on their way to drop out of school, or they had like a 1.8 GPA. When they started sending dope for me, man, they went to having perfect attendance, 3.0 GPA. This one cat, he even had the one that told his mom about me, that hooked me up through his mom. He even had he ended up graduating with a 4.0 GPA. And when he first started, he had just dropped out of school. And I told her, like, man, you got to get back in school because you're not gonna hang around me if you're a loser. And man, he went from being a dropout in school to graduating with a 4.0 GPA. And I didn't even have a 4.0 GPA. I had like a 3.6 or something, but I ain't had no 4.0. But I was able to have this influence on these kids' life because they wanted to be around me. And what I thought was because they wanted to sell drugs for me. And God showed me it was something else a little bit later on. So that's what's going on. So I started thinking like, man, maybe God want me to sell dope. I'm improving these kids' life. I'm taking care of my baby mama. She didn't have to work. I'm taking care of my 3 kids. I'm taking care of my brother. I got this whole crew that I'm taking care of. I'm feeding, got them eating. They going to school. They getting a better life. Maybe this is what God want me to do. So that's what I was thinking. So for the next 6 weeks, man, it was popping. So now, and this is what God comes in. So now it's February. I'll never forget it. It was February 13th, 2004. It was a Friday. And it was a Friday the 13th. Now the place that I worked at the time was called Clover Bottom. It was a place for I don't know the politically correct term, but mentally retarded people. That's what I work with. I don't know the politically correct term, but they call them these days, mentally disabled. Something. But anyway, that's what I worked at. And I worked third shift. So basically, what we would do is we would go in, we would put them to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And then we spend the rest of the night sitting up, smoking weed, talking, whatever, playing video games. I had all the latest, video game systems. So sometimes I just bring my video game system to work and we'll sit around, smoke weed, go get some pizza, and just sit up and play video games all night. So this particular night, though, there was just one guy that started working with me, this white guy. He was an older cat. He was a bit of a weirder cat. But me and him sometimes we get into these like philosophical discussions. And you know what I'm saying? We talk about, because I didn't necessarily, I wasn't no atheist or nothing, but I did have beef with God, so to speak, because of how horrible my life had been up until this point. And the fact that I had left Memphis to escape drug dealing, I still ended up in drug dealing. I was a little upset about that, even though I was the one that made a decision to do it. I was a little bit upset about that because I expected my life to be a little bit different than the way it was going. And I was blaming God for it, and really it was the decision I was making that had me on the path that I was on. So anyway, it's Friday the 13th. I never forget it. It was going to be my weekend off because the way our schedule went, you had every other weekend off. So this was going to be my weekend off. It was Friday the 13th. And I remember everything was popping. I'm like, man, everything is popping. Everything's been good. And man, I was just in the best mood ever. Like I was in a great mood. And I never forget we was playing cards and I was playing spades and I was dealing. And I was such a good mood, man. I was like throwing niggas' cards around, flipping their cards over. I mean, I was just having just a ball. So this guy, he looks at me. He said, man, you in an awfully good mood tonight. What's up with you? I said, man, I feel like I'm enlightened. And he looked at me like, what do you mean enlightened? I said, I feel like I'm enlightened. He said, why you say that? I said, man, I don't know, man. I just feel different. And I feel that God is upon me. And he said, man, I know you a lie. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He said, man, I know what you do when you're not at work. I know how you get down when you're not at work. He said, not try to get in your business, he said, but I know what you do. And he said, there's no way God is within 100 miles of that. And I said, why you say that, man? And he just started breaking it down to me. We just started having this Bible conversation or whatever. So then I was like, man, I really think, you know what I'm saying? He said, why do you feel that God is with you? I said, man, so I started breaking down to him. I said, look, I'm doing this, I'm taking care of this. I got this whole group of people I'm taking care of. And I said, not to mention, man, these kids that's hanging with me, I got them going to school, they getting good grades, you know what I'm saying? Their parents, you know what I'm saying, looking at them different. I've been able to do all that because these kids want to be around me selling dope. He said, man, you got to be an idiot. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, man, them kids don't want to be around you just so they can sell dope. He said, those kids want to be around you because of you. He said, man, this is something I always want to talk to you about. He said, you don't see it. He said, but I see it. He said, there's a light in you, bro. And he said, people are attracted to that light. He said, you don't realize yourself because you look down on yourself. You don't have enough confidence in yourself. He said, but man, you way better than this drug thing that you're doing. And he said, there's a light in you. He said, these kids are not following you because they want to be a part of some big drug dealer. He said, they're following you because they're following that light in you. He said, I can guarantee you what. I tell you what, he said, I guarantee you that whether you're selling drugs, and it's funny that he said this, he said, I tell you what, I guarantee you that whether you're selling drugs or preaching, I guarantee those kids will still follow you because it's not the drug dealer, it's not their lifestyle, it's you that they're following. And he said the only reason why they're selling drugs is because you're selling drugs. He said, and so you start doing something for God, they'll start doing the same thing because they're following you and that light is guiding them. So at this time, at the time I was high, we get blazed and stuff. And I was high and I was like, man, whatever, man, I ain't trying to hear that. I said, man, look, because I'm selling these drugs, these kids want to hang out with me. I've been able to help them improve their life. I said, so I'll tell you what, if me selling drugs is going to give these kids a better life, then I make that sacrifice. So at the time, I guess he can tell I was getting a little irritated. Nobody likes the truth. I didn't like the truth as well. And so, but he was hitting me with some real spit, and I didn't want to hear it. So he could tell I was getting irritated. He said, all right, I can tell you that you're getting irritated. He said, but I'll leave with this. He said, I know without a doubt God is not in what you're doing. And I said, how you know that? He said, because, and I said, no, I said, I make that sacrifice. That if me selling these drugs is going to help these kids get what they need to be at, I make that sacrifice. And that's what he said. He said, man, look, I know God is not in what you're doing. And I said, how you know that? He said, because God likes obedience over sacrifice. He said, yeah, you're making a sacrifice. You're helping these kids out. You're providing for all these kids. You're doing all these things. You're helping all these people out in your world. He said, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. God would not be anywhere in there because you're not living by the law of the land. You're not doing things you're supposed to be doing. You're selling drugs, and you really could possibly mess up other people's lives with the things you're doing. So I know God won't be over there. He said, yeah, you're making this sacrifice, but God likes obedience over sacrifice. And when he said that, man, I was just like, man, whatever. But at the same time, that stuck with me the rest of the day. It stuck with me one second. Y'all look this one. But when he said that, it really stuck with me. I kind of played it off. All right, man, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They want to hear it. But that stuck with me for the rest of the day. And it just kept going through my head. Obedience over sacrifice. Obedience over sacrifice. And I looked at what I was going through. And I was definitely being a rebel. You know what I'm saying? I was, again, doing everything that I'm not supposed to be doing. That's what I was doing. And even getting ready to make a decision to do something that I said I never would do. So I knew I was definitely being a rebel. And I was, but I was thinking, because it was helping all these kids out. These people in my world gave me the ability to take care of these people in my world. So that just stuck with me for the rest of the day. I tried to play it off, but it didn't. You know what I'm saying? It didn't work. So I left that day. Like I said, it was Friday. It was a weekend. So I went, read up, got ready for the weekend because my weekends off was always popping. So I went and got all, read up, got some more dope, got some more pills and everything, and got ready for the weekend. And actually, it was a pretty great day, to be honest. It was a Friday the 13th, and that's why I don't get bothered by Friday the 13th, because that's when this all started. So now, next day come along. It was Saturday. It was the 14th, and it was a Valentine's Day. And again, I always cringe when I say this because I know my wife was watching this. But that day, man, it was one of the best days I had. Like at that time, it's been way better than since. But at that time, I mean, I had like 4 dates set up that day. You know what I'm saying? I had the whole day set up where I was leaving one girl and going to another kind of thing. So I mean, I felt like the man, and I kind of left everything in my hands of my brother because I was gonna be out. You know what I'm saying? Out and about all day, kind of thing. So in the midst of this guy gives me a call. Now he was friends, and I'm trying not to use names because I know with this internet stuff and to go around, people could get upset. So I'm trying not to use names. But he was friends. He was kind of one of the goons, so to speak, of the guy that sold coke. And I noticed about 2-3 weeks before all this started happening, before this happened, he started hanging out in my crib. Now again, everybody that was in my crib, when you was in my crib, we was partying, we was smoking, we was drinking, we whatever. But these guys, he never would participate. He would just kind of sit in the corner and watch. He would smoke with us, but he never, played video game, never got in, we was joking or anything. He just was just there. And I started getting my Memphis instinct kicked in. I'm like, man, is this dude watching me? But I was so cocky and arrogant at the time, because I had a pistol and everything, thought I was somebody big and bad. So I was so cocky and arrogant. I'm like, well, it ain't no way this guy would be watching me. He wouldn't even, dare to try me, kind of thing. He wouldn't dare try me because he know who I am, kind of thing. But at the same time, it's just something told me like, man, I need to keep my eye on this dude. You know, just my instincts, I guess you would say. So fast forward, like I said, it's February the 14th, 2004, Valentine's Day. Never forget, I got all these dates that I'm going on. And in the middle of all this guy calls me. And he tells me, he said, look, man, he said, I need to go get some bullets for my gun. But because of my record, I can't get it. He said, but I know you, because at the time, like I said, I had my handgun, but I actually had my gun legally. Like at the time, I had a handgun carrying permit. So I actually could walk around with my gun on my side because I went and took the class and all that, which I often did just to let folks know that I wasn't playing. You know, and I had this nice pistol. My wife, she worked at a pawn shop for a little bit, and I saw this pistol one time. I was up there picking it up, and it was a chrome. The pistol was chrome. The handle was of pearl. It was a pearl handle. The pistol and everything was chrome, and then all the action and the buttons and the trigger was gold. So it looked like something from like a Nicolas Cage movie or something, man. So of course I felt like I was this big drug dealer. I had to have it, and I would walk around with it on my side. So everybody knew that, you know, so I was completely legit because I had the ability to do that. So this guy hits me up. He's like, man, he said, and he told me, he said, man, I got some people. He told me, he said, I got some white people I want to rob Monday. This was Saturday. He said, I got some white people I want to rob Monday, but I can't get bullets to my gun because of my record. Like, man, can I come scoop you up real quick and we go grab some? So I had to leave the car, one of the cars for my brother and my boys. So I said, well, I tell you what, you know, my brother, he had a run to make, and I couldn't go meet the guy. So I said, well, just come scoop me up. That'll be fine. Come pick me up. So again, I'm living in, I did a lesson a few weeks back called The Results of Sin. You know, and that's one of the things, when you're sinning, you living the life the way you're supposed to, you're not thinking clearly. You know what I'm saying? That sin and that life you're living will completely blind you to something that's obvious. Because I should have really been, you know, when he asked me that, I should have been, you know, if I had any kind of common sense, I'd be like, hold on. This guy is a known felon. You know what I'm saying? He's known for shooting people and robbing people. So if I go and get this dude some bullets for his gun, and he go out and shoot and rob somebody, then guess what? I'm going to jail for accessory because I'm the one that got it for him. But I was living so wild and crazy that I didn't even care. I was just like, man, whatever, I'm about to do this, you know. So he come and scoop me up, which is, it was, and just the whole situation was weird. And it shows that God was in it because, one, I never liked driving with nobody. Even to this day, I hate not having a vehicle. I hate not being able to get up and go what I want. I hate for having somebody else having control over when I can leave and come and go and do as I please kind of thing. So, you know what I'm saying? But when this guy called me, I was just like, all right, man, come get me. So he pulls up to come get me, and I'm thinking it's just going to be me and him, but it's him and these two other dudes in the car. You know, so I get in, and I had took a little note just in case somebody called me while I was out. You know, I had some dope in my pocket. I had about an ounce or so in my pocket, and then I had a pocket full of money as well, because I just never knew what was going to, know how long it was going to take or what we're going to be doing. So I got this dope in my pocket. I got an ounce, got a couple of ounces in my pocket. I got some money in my pocket, and I get into this car with this dude, and he was sitting in the back with me. And then it was his other boy that hung out with him was sitting in the front passenger seat. And then there was a dude driving. And I actually didn't even know who the dude that was driving. I didn't even know him, but I knew the other two. So we get in the car, and it was just eerie. Like, they was just eerily quiet for some reason. Like, you know, normally we get in and we joking, you know what I'm saying? We might smoke before we go or something. We joking, cracking jokes. This dude, he liked to rap, so sometimes he'd freestyle. But nobody was saying nothing. It was just eerie. So I was sitting there in the back of this car, and it was all quiet. And for the first time again, I heard my spirit talk to me. You know what I'm saying? But this time it was clear. And again, I didn't hear no voice. It was just, again, my conscience, whatever you want to call it, it was just talking to me. And all of a sudden, these words to this song started coming to me. And the thing was, you know what I'm saying, I had never, you know, thought about, you know, we all freestyle. You know, anybody that smokes, sit around, think they can rap and all that. We freestyle and do all that. So I had freestyle and things like that, but I had never took rapping seriously to where I actually wrote a song. But all of a sudden, man, this lyrics to this song started coming to me. So I'll never forget, I took out a pencil. I had a pen in my paper, and I always keep a pen and a pen and paper in my pocket. And I do it to this day just in case I have some idea I want to write down. So I took out my pen. We got a pen right here. I took out my pen, and I had some paper in my pocket, and I just started writing. And I honestly, I can't explain it. I ain't gonna say I blanked out because I was conscious, but I just started writing these lyrics down, and I have no idea where they came from. Like, I wrote them as far as my hand wrote them, but it wasn't me that was writing it. If y'all can understand, I don't want y'all to think I'm crazy or anything, but it wasn't me that was writing. I was just basically, it's like the spirit was dictating to me, and I was just writing what it was saying. So next thing you know, I'm just getting focused now. When the guy picked me up, I was in Bellevue, and the place they wanted to go to was this like a sporting goods store over on Dixon Road. So it's about a 25 minute drive, depending on traffic. It'd probably be farther than that now because Nashville has grown so much. But it was about a 25-30 minute drive. So the whole time I'm not paying attention to these dudes. I'm not picking up on this weird vibe that's in the car because nobody was talking. So I just started writing. So I got this pen. I'm writing. And then next thing you know, like I said, I like blinked out or something. I don't know what happened, but I wasn't present consciously. Like I subconsciously I was there, but consciously I wasn't there. And next thing you know, we pulled up at this store. I didn't even realize how the 30 minutes had elapsed. And we pulled up at the store, and we pulled up to the store to do like, hey man, we here. And then I kind of snapped out of there like, where? It's like, we at the place, you gonna go get the bullet? I said, oh yeah. So I looked down, and by the time, in that 30-minute drive, I had wrote a song, a full song. It was 3 verses and the chorus, and the name of the song was called God's Will. And it talks about how everything happens for a reason. Like everything that happens to you, just like in Romans 8:28, everything that happens for you happens to you for a reason. The good, bad, and the ugly, because it's all a part of making you who you are, and it's all a part of getting you ready for the work that God has for you to do. So I'm writing this song. Now again, I hadn't been in church in like 6 years by this time. It's been probably 5 or 6 years since I had been in church. So I'm like, where did this come from? A song talking about God's will and how everything happened for a reason. It was no way of thinking I had ever in my life. So I didn't even really understand how did I just write this song right here. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm kind of perplexed with what's going on. And then dude like, hey man, go get the bullets. I said, oh, okay, all right. So I just take the song, I fold it up, stuck it in my pocket, didn't think nothing of it. So then I get out the car and I go into the store to get the bullets. So I'll never forget, the guy asked me to get some bullets for a 20, I think he said a 22, I don't know if it was a special or what, but it was a 22 something. And he told me, this is what I need. So he gave me the money, and I went to the store to get the bullets. Now I walk in the store, and there's just like this old white guy standing there, a tall white guy. I'll never forget, it was an older gentleman. And I walk in, and I say, man, I need a box of 22, whatever it was, bullets or whatever. And the dude just looked at me, and he was just like, no. And I was like, what do you mean no? He said, no. I'm like, no what? He said, no, I'm not selling you any bullets. So I'm like, why not? You know what I'm saying? I said, man, here. And I took my handgun license out, slapped it on the counter. Like, man, look, here go my license. You can run a background check. You know what I'm saying? Here go the money. Why won't you sell me no bullets? And dude was just like, no, I'm not selling you. He said, I can choose to sell to who I want to and not sell to who I want to. And I'm not selling you any bullets. So at this point, I'm thinking the guy being racist. So I just started cursing him out. I'm calling him all kinds of names. Like, you low down, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm, cussing this guy out. So then he said, I tell you what, sir, you got about 3 seconds to get up out of my store before I call the police. So then when he said that got my attention because I knew I still had some dope in my pocket. I had money in my pocket. I didn't want the police getting that on me. And then the dudes in the car, like I said, they've known for having guns and stuff like that. So it wasn't no telling what they had in the car. So I didn't want them to call the police. So I was like, man, fine, I'll leave. So I grab my stuff up and I stick it in my pocket and I leave, So I get to the car and dude like, man, what a bull is it? I said, man, dude wasn't selling to me. He's like, oh, bro, you lying. I said, man, you had us come all the way this way, waste all this gas money, and you gonna go in there and BS me like that? I said, look, bro, I went in to get the bullets. I, showed the dude my ID and everything. I said, man, dude wouldn't even look at the ID. He just told me to get out of the store. And he's like, man, you lying. And I mean, this dude got upset. Like, I can tell that he was physically upset. Like, I had just, like, ruined this whole day or something. So then I started getting mad. Like, look, bro, I told you I would come and do the stuff for you. The nigga went 70 bullets. I don't know what's going on. You need to get me back to the house before I get mad. So he's like, all right, man, all right, my bad. He said, man, I appreciate you trying. I said, all right, man, take me back to the house. So then I get back in the car, and we go back to the house, and the mood changed then. It was so weird, because we kind of, for the rest of the ride back, we kind of just, tripped and talked a little bit, and things changed. So I didn't think nothing of it. I get back home, man, because of, we did all that, I missed one of my dates. So, you know what I'm saying? It was a girl that I was really trying to do some strange things to, so to speak. So I hit her, look, man, I had to go run take care of some business. So I apologize, I missed a day. I said, would it be okay if, we kicking tomorrow night? So she's like, yeah, fine. So all right, cool. So that was going to be Sunday night. So we set it up for Sunday night and, just finish up the rest of the day, finish the rest of my day. It was great for, in case you was wondering. But I finished it up. And then Sunday came around, I was off that day. Like I said, my weekend off, I was off. So I didn't really have a lot going on other than that date. So I got up, got ready for my date, and I told my boys, I never forgot to tell them, look, I said, this girl coming over, she's a college chick, you know what I'm saying? She's you know what I'm saying? She's one of the sophisticated women, and I know she ain't gonna try to do nothing with 100 dudes hanging out around and coming in and out of the house and everything. So I need y'all to clear the apartment. I said she'll be here about 8 o'clock. I said I don't want y'all back here no later than 12. I said don't come in before 12 because if we do, we're gonna have some problems. I said I need that. I'm trying to do something strange, and she ain't gonna do nothing with all y'all hanging around. So they all left. So it was the first time, really, and I never thought about it. It was the first time in probably 2-3 years that I was actually by myself. It was the first because I always had some people around. I always had, like I said, if you come to my place, it was always girls there, it was always dudes there. You know what I'm saying? My brother or somebody. We was always somebody there. And that was the first time that I had my place to myself. So, girl come over, we hung out, you know, whatnot, you know, talk back and forth. And then, you know, I tried to make my move. And then she kept it real with me. She said, look, said, I kind of figured what you had up your sleeve kind of thing. She said, but I don't really get down like that. She said, but I did want to come and talk and just see what kind of guy you are. And she said, I really like you. She said, you're a nice dude. She said, you know, you put on this little front, but you know, you're really a nice dude. She said, I would like to go out on an actual date for you. So she said, it just so happened while we was hanging out, it was some movie came out. It was like a preview. And she's like, I want to see that. And I was like, well, me too. So she's like, well, I tell you what, why don't we set up a date to go out? And when that movie came out in a couple of weeks, said, why don't we set up a date to go out and watch that movie when it come out? I was like, fine. So she left. So now it was about 9:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, and now she left, and my boys want to come back to 12, so now I had the house to myself. And I remember thinking like, man, what am I gonna do with all this free time? I've never had this happen where I got time to myself. So then something just hit me like, hey, why don't you work on that song from yesterday? They're like, oh yeah, let me work on this song. 'Cause it was just so weird that I had wrote a song. 'Cause like I said, I had never wrote a song before, and the way it came to me, it was all just a weird situation. So I was like, yeah, let me work on this song. 'Cause I didn't even read it. And again, it shows you that it was just, I didn't hear a voice, but something that was just speaking through me, and I just wrote down what it was giving me. But I didn't even read it. I just folded up, put it in my pocket. So I was like, yeah, let me work on that song. But I was like, first, let me give me some inspiration. So I sat down, I grab a sack of weed, and I rolled me up a fatty. You know what I'm saying? I smoked about half of it. So now I'm sitting at my table and I'm looking at this song. And I don't know, I know all you guys are good, fine, upstanding gentlemen and ladies out there, so you probably never did any drugs or anything. I'm not judging, but I mean, if you have, you know that when you're on marijuana, everything is just a little bit more intense. You know, you feel everything. Hey, Felicia, how you doing? You feel everything a lot more, and everything is just, you know what I'm saying, just so much better as far as I thought, you know, at the time. So I get high, and I'm reading over these lyrics, but now I'm reading through these lyrics that, like I said, I wrote the day before. My hand wrote them, but I wrote this song, and I'm reading these lyrics, and again, the name of the song called God's Will. So I'm reading through it, and it was basically, had I put this testimony that I'm doing right here with y'all right now into a song, that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? And it was just talking about how the song was talking about how God worked, had everything set out and worked everything out for a reason. And I was just really like, man, where did this come from? So I'm reading it and I'm high, and the words are like hitting me like a blow to the chest. And it's just like, man, everything I'm reading is just like, man, it's just like, man, that's deep. You know what I'm saying? Some deep stuff. And I guess it was just reaching my spirit. So finally, I got about halfway through the song, and there's a point in the song where I talk about me selling drugs. I talked about me selling drugs, and I got there, and the way it was worded, I just kind of wanted to reword it a little bit. So I was like, man, I'm going to change that line. So again, I'm high, I'm reading through this song, and like tears start coming to my eyes and all kind of thing, and it was just weird. So and my heart started beating, and I was like, man, what is going on? So I get to this line. Now I'm looking at the words on the paper. I get to this line and I get ready to change these lyrics. So I'm sitting there and I got this pen in my hand. I'm sure I got this pen in my hand. Sitting there and I'm getting ready to change these lyrics. And next thing you know, I get stuck. And my first thought, of course, was like, man, this is some good weed. Like, I'm so high, I can't even write. Because no matter what I did, my pen would not touch the paper. So, I mean, it was literally just suspended in midair like this. So at first I'm like, man, I'm so high, I can't even write. But when I went to apply pressure, like I'm like, putting full force down on this pen to get this pen to touch the paper. And no matter how much force I put on this pen would not touch the paper. The next thing you know, my hand just started shaking. And then after that, I just got these chills all over my body. And it went from my head to my foot and back up. I mean, my entire body was engulfed with these chills. And it wasn't on some I'm cold kind of thing. It was like there was a presence there. And I was like, man, what's going on? The next thing you know, my heart started beating like hard. Like I felt like I was dying. Like I literally felt like I was dying. My heart was beating and I got these chills all over my body. And then for whatever reason, I just started crying. Like, I mean, like boo-hooing, crying. And I'm sitting to myself and like, this is all happening in my brain. I'm like, what is going on? Am I dying right now? And you know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, man, I saw, you talk about people talk about near-death experience and they see their life flash before their eyes. I saw that. I saw my life flash before my eyes. And that's why I thought I was dying, because I saw my life flash before my eyes. And I remember thinking like, okay, yeah, I lived the life. I know, all this stuff I've been through. What's the big deal? But then it's like it rewounded. Like my life rewounded, and then it played again. And I saw all the times where I could have died and I should have died that I didn't die because God was protecting me the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Because I like I said, I'm from North Memphis. Now I had a gun put in my face at least 3 times. I've been robbed at gunpoint twice, 3 times I can think of. And I had another time where a guy put a gun in my face. He was just playing, but still the gun could have went off. So it's just like my life rewounded, and I saw how all the things I had been through, you know what I'm saying? But I also saw God show me, he gave me the wisdom to see that he brought me through those things. He took me through those things, but he also brought me through those things. And then next thing you know, that when I hit that, I just had this big realization of that everything happens for a reason. I lived my life, everything I went through was for a reason. And at that moment, again, I didn't hear a voice, but my spirit spoke clearly to me. Because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, what's going on? And my spirit was like, you got, you know what I'm saying? I was asking like, what's going on? And some was like, you said you want God to show up and show you that he's real. Well, guess what? You know that tingling sensation you're experiencing right now? He said that's God's presence that you're feeling. So you're like, if you got something to say to God, you need to go ahead and get it off your chest. So I was like, what? I was like, I got something. I said, I tell you what, I got something to say. So I threw my pen down, and the first thing I said, the first thing out of my mouth was I was talking to God. And I'm not saying this to show you that I'm big and bad. It's just, this is what happened. I'm just retelling the story. The first thing I said out of my mouth when I was talking to God, I said, man, F you, God. I said, man, you see the life I've been living. You see what I've been through. You see how I've been struggling down here. And then next thing you know, man, I just started going off on this long list of things and complaints that I got, of things that God never took me out of, things that he never helped me through. Why did he put me through this? Why did I get molested by these 2 men? Why was I poor? Why was I, why was I black? I mean, I hated everything about myself and everything I had been through. I was upset at God because of those things. So I'm just going through this whole list of questions, asking him, why you let this happen? Why you let this happen? Why you let this happen? Why you didn't step in and stop me from this? Why you didn't step in and do this for me? And I'm just like going off on God, so to speak. And I'm just like, and I'm pretty sure it's just like anybody else would be that it has had a rough life. You know what I'm saying? It's some things that you want to get off your mind and tell God about. And that's what I was doing. I felt like I was telling God off. So this goes on for a good 15, 20 minutes, man. I'm just telling God everything I wanted to say to him about how my life turned out. I'm telling him. So this goes on for a good 15, 20 minutes. And then when I finally finished, I felt like I didn't got it all in my chest. I'm sitting there, and I've never met. I'm crying. My heart is still beating fast. I got this chill all over my body, and I'm huffing and I'm puffing. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I just gave him a piece of my mind kind of thing. And then again, the voice came to me. And again, I'd say a voice, but it just, my spirit came to me. He was like, all right, you upset. So you got every reason to be upset. He said, you know what I'm saying? You got some valid complaints there. Your life has been rough. You did get molested. It has been pretty bad for you. You know what I'm saying? I know, I can understand why you feel cursed, because every time you get 2 steps ahead, you get pushed 5 steps back. He said, all that stuff is valid. He said, but let me ask you one thing. And I was just, you know what I'm saying? I was all cocky, like, what's that? He said, what have you ever done for me? And then just like that, it was quiet. And it just threw me off guard. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, it's a simple question. What have you ever done for me? He said, yeah, you're selling drugs. Yeah, you're taking care of all these kids. You working 2 or 3 jobs. You putting yourself through college. Why are you doing those things? Why are you doing it? I didn't tell you to do those things. Why are you doing them? Are you doing them for my kingdom? Are you doing them for yourself? Say, are you doing them to make me look good, or are you doing them to make yourself look good? Are you doing them so you can help build my kingdom, or are you doing it so these little kids that's hanging around you think you something big and bad, something special? He said, why are you doing the things you done? He said, when have you ever? He said, when last time you done anything for me? And I started thinking about like, really never. He said, exactly. He said, you supposed to be a Christian. He said, when last time you told anybody about me? And I started thinking about it, and I was like, really never. He said, exactly. You know what I'm saying? He said, you supposed to be putting your faith and trust in me. You supposed to be saved. He said, when the last time you even asked me to help you out of these problems that you're going through? He said, when the last time you wholeheartedly prayed? He said, the first time you even talked to me was about 8 weeks ago when you came at me with arrogance, saying that I need to prove myself to you when really you should be proving yourself to me. He said, when have you done anything for me? When have you made me the priority in your life? And when I really sat and thought about it, I was like, never. He said, exactly. He said, that's why you're going through the problems that you're going through. He said, that's why you had a drama that you have in your life. That's why your life is so chaotic, because you're living for yourself and you're not living for me. He said, see, when I got you out, when I raised you up, when I brought you out of North Memphis, I did that so you can live for me, so you can work for me. He said, but you decided, he said, you know that I've been calling you this whole time since you was a child, but you've been living for yourself. You felt my presence on your life. That's why you was able to make it through North Memphis. That's why you was able to accomplish the things that you've accomplished, because I've always been there for you. He said, but now I'm going to give you one last chance. He said, you need to make a decision. He said, you can keep doing what you're doing and you'll be dead by tomorrow, or you can start serving me and I can use you to bring others to me just like you in your same situation. So I'm like, hold on. Of course, when he said that dead by tomorrow, I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you know how when you went to buy those bullets yesterday at that store? I'm like, yeah. He said, you know why you couldn't buy those bullets? I said, what? Why not? He said, because what you don't know is those guys was planning on robbing you and killing you. He said they was too afraid to take you on hand to hand, and all they had on them was their .22 pistol. And they knew if they got the bullets to the pistol, they would be able to control you. But they was too scared to fight you hand to hand. He said they was planning on taking you. They knew you had the dope in your pocket. They knew you had money in your pocket, and that's why they got you away from your boys. That's why they wanted you to drive you to ride with them so they can get you away from your boys. They was planning on robbing you and killing you. He said, but I wanted to give you one more chance to make a decision whether you're gonna serve me or not. He said, now I'm gonna let you know something. He said, they plans haven't changed. He said, you know how he told you that he was going to rob white people Monday? I'm like, yeah. He said, he's not robbing no white people. He's going to come rob you. And in the midst of robbing you, he's going to end up killing you unless you make the right decision. So what decision you going to make? Are you going to serve me and start living for me? Or are you going to serve yourself and keep living for yourself and you'll be dead by tomorrow? Now, of course, that was 16 years ago. So y'all know the decision I made, but I made the decision right then and there that I was going to serve the Lord. But again, just like everybody else, I still doubt it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if you read over in the book of Judges, you look through the story of Gideon. When the Lord called Gideon, he doubted. And he told the Lord, well, I want you to make this mat wet and let the floor around it be dry. And then I know I talked to you. And then the Lord did it. And then the next night he said, okay, now I want the floor to be wet and the mat to be dry. And the Lord did it. I did the same thing. I gave the Lord some challenges, so to speak, for him to prove to me that I had just talked to him. Because the thing was, I didn't want to give up that life. I didn't want to, again, it wasn't that, that I was providing for my family, all that. I was addicted to the lifestyle. Like us all, we're all addicted to our sins. I talked about it the other day. We're slaves to our sins. And I was a slave to that sin, and I didn't want to give that up because I was having fun. Like I said, I was having fun, but I was still missing something. I was still depressed because I didn't realize what I was missing. All the thing I was trying to get all these material things, but the one thing I needed was the love of Jesus. And that was what the Lord was showing us to tell me, that the reason why I'm still miserable in what I'm doing, the reason why I don't get no satisfaction out of what I'm doing is because I'm not doing the things for the right reason. I'm doing the things to satisfy myself when I really should be doing things to satisfy him and build his kingdom. And that's where true success come from. And that's where true happiness come from. So, of course, I give the Lord these challenges. And over the next couple of days, I expect him to do these challenges. To prove to me that I talked to him. But really in my heart, I had already made up my decision that I was going to give my life to the Lord. So then I'll never forget, I was sitting there once the conversation was over, and I can't go into all the details. It'd take me a whole nother 2 hours to tell you everything that me and the Lord talked about, so to speak. But it was some things that he said he was going to do, and it was going to prove to me that I did have a conversation with the Lord. And again, I didn't see a light. I didn't see no angels. I didn't even hear an audible voice, but it was just something from within inside of me that was talking to me, that was guiding me in the direction of this conversation that I was having. So I finished up this conversation with God, so to speak, And now I'm spooked. I'm stuck. And you know what I'm saying? I just started praying, and when I started praying, I started realizing that I spent too much time letting things come before God. Hey, Tinky, how you doing? I spent too much time putting other things before God. I wasn't making God my priority, so I started praying to God and telling Him that from that moment on that He would be my priority. And I told Him, I said, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I'm yours. But I still was hesitant to just get all the way in because I was still waiting for Him to do these things that I had asked Him to do. So in the middle of that, so I'm sitting there praying, I'm praying, and in the middle of that, I never forget my brother come in, and he told me, said, man, look, he kind of whispered, he saw I was praying, so he didn't want to interrupt, but he put my phone on the table and said, look, your baby mama been calling, you might need to call her. He just whispered in my ear and he left back out. But again, I had just told God that, man, look, you're going to be my priority. I don't care. And I'm thinking the words like, oh, man, one of my kids done got hurt or something like that. But at the same time, like, I can't let that get in front of this conversation I'm having with God right now. So I just let the phone ring and I just kept praying to God. So as soon as I got through, literally, I finished praying and my boys, like, not even a minute after I finished praying, my boys walk in. So they walk in, they don't know what to expect, you know what I'm saying? They just came in on tripping, or I don't know where they had came from. They had been hanging out or whatever. So they all come in and tripping, and then they come around the corner, they see me, and I'm sitting at my table. And I'm sitting at the table, and I'm sitting there, and I'm spooked. I'm just like, my eyes are big, and I'm kind of nervous, and I'm shaking. And my boy, I remember they looked around like, man, you all right? I said, no. They said, what's wrong? I said, nigga, I just talked to God. And they just busted out to laughing like, man, you done lost your mind. And they had asked me, they said, man, you must have smoked that heavy while we was gone. And that was something else I had did. I forgot to mention that I had started doing. I didn't do it a lot, but I did do it a couple of times. We smoke what we call heavies. And if you don't know what that is, it's when you roll marijuana and you sprinkle some cocaine on top of it. They call it a heavy Chevy. And they had rolled one before they had left, and we were supposed to smoke it when they got back. And they said, man, you must have hit the heavy while we was gone. I was like, nah, bro. I was like, I'm dead serious. I said, matter of fact, I'm going to show y'all how serious I am. Now, like I said, when I got my weed, I got about 1 pound. And whenever I broke it down, it always had at least an ounce or two of shake. And so what I would do, that's what I did. That's what I would smoke, because I was a smoker myself. So I would just keep the shake and smoke the shake, and I would sell all the buzz, because not a lot of people didn't like smoking the shake, but hey, it was still weed. So a lot of people too bougie to smoke the shake, and plus there's a lot of stems and seeds in it. So that's what I would do. I would take the ounce or two of shake that was with the pound that I get, and I would keep that to smoke for myself, and then I sell all the buzz, and that's how I made my money, whatever. So I had, but like I said, I had just read up the day before, so I had like an ounce of shake sitting there. And I told my boys, I said, look, I said, man, y'all take this ounce. I said, y'all roll all of it. And I gave them a box of cigars. And I said, y'all take this and roll all of it. I said, we need to talk. We're going to need to have a smoke session. And they're like, all right, man. They still didn't know what was going on. They just knew something was up. So at that moment when I gave it to them, for the first time, man, I went to my room and I went and talked to God by myself. You know what I'm saying? I got off by myself to talk to God. So I got up and I went to my room. And I never forget, I got on the side of my bed. I closed my door. And I went to God humbly. And I just started apologizing to God. You know what I'm saying? And I got on my knees. I didn't ask God for anything. I didn't ask God to do anything for me. All I wanted to do was apologize for all the time that I had spent not living for Him. And everything that I can think of that I had been doing at the time, I was apologizing for. I apologize for not believing in Him. I apologize for doubting Him. I apologize for not putting my faith in Him. I apologize for not making Him first in my life. You know what I'm saying? Just anything. I apologize for all the girls I was hooking up with. I apologize for the way I was treating my baby mama at the time. I mean, anything that I can think of that I knew I was doing that I wasn't supposed to be doing, I was apologizing for. And this went on for another 20, 30 minutes as well. So I'm apologizing. So about 20, 30 minutes go by, and I hear a knock on the door. And again, it's my brother. And he comes in, he just got this perplexed look on his face like, man, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. What's up? He said, man, we're done rolling. What's up? I said, I tell you what, man, y'all go in front and y'all go ahead and get started smoking. I'll be up there in a minute. I got something to do. So when I went up to the kitchen, I grabbed a garbage bag and I went back because I kept all my dope and stuff in my closet. And I went back to the closet, man, and I just started raking everything, every piece of drug, anything I had, drug paraphernalia, everything. I just raked it in this garbage bag. I had this big garbage bag and I just put it all in this garbage bag. And I tied a knot in this bag and I went up front with my boys. Now, my boys sitting up there like, man, what's up? I said, man, y'all gonna blaze up? I said, y'all blaze up. I'm not going to join y'all. I just want y'all to listen. They didn't listen to what? I said, man, I got something God told me to tell y'all. So I set my boys down like in a little semicircle in my living room. And for the first time, again, I hadn't been in church in 6 years, man. But the first time in my life, I just started preaching. You know what I'm saying? And from about this time, it was about 11, somewhere around 11:30 at night. From 11:30 that night to about 7:30 that morning, I preached almost 8 hours straight. And the crazy part was I was quoting the Bible, and like I said, at that point I had never read the Bible, but I did go to church every Sunday, so the Bible was in me. I just wasn't using it. I was putting it on the back burner. So next thing you know, man, I'm quoting the Bible. I'm, you know what I'm saying, quoting Bible verses. I'm talking about, man, God showed me this, God told me that, God told me this, God told me that, and I'm just going off, man. And this goes on for like 8 hours. And my boys, you know, of course, they sitting there, they smoking and they rolling, they smoking, they just listening. So at the end of the 8 hours, they were just like, they were just like, man, are you serious about this? I said, I'm finna show y'all exactly how serious I am about God right now. Now we had this guy that was hanging with us, and he had kind of embedded himself into the group, so to speak. But he was actually my neighbor. He stayed a couple of floors up from me, and we called him O. He was from Arkansas. And about 3 weeks before this happened, he asked me to put him on, show him the drug game, you know what I'm saying, hook him up, give him a little clientele, that kind of thing. And I told him I would do it. He was gonna be like my right hand man kind of thing. But he ended up saying he was gonna have to go back to. He honestly he partied with us so much. He hung out at my place and partied with us so much that he didn't do none of his schoolwork. So he actually ended up having to go back. He said he was gonna have to go back home and finish school up in Arkansas because his folks got upset at him because his grades weren't all that much. Because again, I had got away from everything that I had stood for, and I was just doing what I wanted to do. So I knew O was trying to get on. So I told him, I said, I'm finna prove to y'all right now that I'm dead serious about this. I said, I know I promised you that I'll help you get on. I said, but man, I can't do that no more because I made a promise to God that I wouldn't sell these drugs no more. I said, but I will help you get a step ahead. He said, how you going to do that? I said, come here. So I brought him up in front of everybody. And I had this garbage bag with all these drugs and everything in it. And I said, all right, here you go. And he said, what's this? I said, man, this is all the drugs I got in my possession right now. I said, it's probably about a pound of weed there. I said there's some ecstasy pills, there's some Oxycontin, you know what I'm saying, some mushrooms, like everything I had. I said, all of it, you can have it. And when I said that, he jumped back and said, I can have it. I said, yeah. He said, what do you mean I can have it? I said, you can have it, bro. He said, like, have it? I said, look, man, you can sell it, you can smoke it, you can give it away. I said, honestly, you can shove it up for all I care. I said, but don't bring me one single dime from it because I just promised God I'll never do this again. And he said, are you serious? I said, I'm dead serious. So after I said that, I put it out there for him a second time. And when I put it out there for him the second time, I had it like this right in front of him. And he kind of did it hesitatingly. He went and he grabbed it. And when he grabbed it, I let it go. And the Bible talks about a peace that passes all understanding. And I cannot explain to y'all that peace that I felt when I let go of that sack of drugs, man. Like I literally felt like the weight of the world was lifted up off my shoulders. I literally felt like I was about to float away because I didn't realize how much sin that I was holding on to that was keeping me on this ground, keeping me where I was at, and keeping me in the position I was at. And I couldn't elevate myself because I couldn't get past of it. So when I let that sack go, you know what I'm saying, I got this peace that came over me, and then it's like all my boys' eyes opened up because they knew that I was dead serious. And when they said that, they're like, man, how can we know God like that? So for the next 3 days, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't drink water for 3 days straight. I preached for 3 days straight. That's all I did for 3 days straight. And the reason why I preached for 3 days straight, because I told my boy, I brought him up after the whole situation. I said, look, man, I said, the drugs are yours. I said, I'm not reneging on that. I said, but do me a favor. I said, just hang down here in my apartment. I said, this way you can get your clientele built up. I said, hang down in my apartment, and when any of my customers want to come by and need anything, tell them they can have it for free if they just listen to me preach. So, of course, he was just like, all right, that's cool, you know, because he didn't lose no money on it. He didn't pay for it. It was free. So he's like, all right, cool. So that's what happened. That's why I, saying preach for 3 days straight, because every time a customer come by, they come in and be like, hey, what you need? They be like, no, duh. Be like, all right, you can get that for free. You listen to John preach. And, of course, everybody like, John preach? Like, all right, whatever. And next thing you know, I went to tell them a testimony. I wasn't really preaching like the word. I was basically just telling everybody my testimony. So I spent 3 days of just sharing my testimony with anybody that was willing to listen. And that went on for 3 days straight. And then finally on the fourth day, I finally stopped because I literally talked till I lost my voice. Like I talked till I was just whispering. Like it was like, And I was still trying to talk to niggas, but it wasn't effective. So now I finally just got something to eat and took some rest. And I only slept for like 3-4 hours. And I got back, my voice had came back, and I went out preaching again. Everybody I came across that week, I was telling my testimony. So that's kind of what happened. And then at the end of the day, and I'm going to tell y'all this last thing, and I'm going to end it here because, like I said, it's so much to it. And I apologize if I've already taken way more time than I wanted to, but it was so much to it, and I'm really leaving out a lot because just to shorten the story down some, but I'm just kind of hitting the main points. So I'm doing that. I'm talking to my boys that whole day, and I'm preaching. I'm going to go back to Mondays. And this is the one thing God did that let me know without a doubt that I had talked to him. And this is why I really all right, I made my decision that, okay, I'm putting my whole heart into serving the Lord. So again, we go back to Monday. Now remember the guy that I was going to get the bullets for, he said he was going to rob some white people Monday. So now it was Monday. So again, I spent that whole day preaching. Everybody that came in, I was preaching, I was talking to. So then the day went by, it was around 9 or 10. Now 9 or 10 is usually when I kind of shut down shop, because I didn't want people coming into my house all day and night. There's some certain people can still get in touch with me. Like if it was special people, I go out and I do a little something for the most part. About 10 o'clock, people stop calling. So now it's about 10:30, and the business kind of slowed down, but I'm still preaching. I'm talking to my boys, I'm preaching. So normally, I always kept my door locked. I never left my door locked and that's just a Memphis thing, because you never know when somebody's gonna try to run up in your house. So I never kept my door locked. But this day I didn't care, because I knew that God had showed up and showed me that he was real, and he showed me that he was with me. So I didn't care. So I left my door unlocked, because anybody that came to my house today, they got preached to. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't care. So now, like I said, it's about 10:30 at night. My boys, we in my room. Now the apartment I had, it had it had a door, and then it had like a long hallway. And then, like, toward the end of the hallway was the bedrooms. And mine was at the very end, and then my brother's was right beside mine. So that's how it was. So all the lights in the house was off, except for in my room, because I had my boys in my room. They were sitting around my bed, and I'm just preaching. I'm just telling them all these things that God showed to me, and this conversation I had with God, and I'm just going at it, man. So next thing you know, it's about 10:30 at night, I hear my door open. Now I'm still preaching, but I'm thinking to myself, like, who is this? Who could this be? Because nobody was supposed to come through. Nobody had called to come through. I wasn't inspecting nobody. My boys weren't inspecting nobody. So who is this coming up in my house? So then I just thought, like, you know what? I see them when they get here. So I just kept going. You know what I'm saying? So I'm preaching. So next thing you know, I heard these footsteps coming down the hall. And again, they're getting closer and closer and closer. And I can hear that it's 2 sets of footsteps. So now I'm like, who is this? I'm like, well, you know what? I just see them when they get here. So I keep on preaching. And next thing you know, the footsteps are right outside the door. So when I finally heard them right outside the door, I look up and I look to my door, and I look up and I see 2 guys coming to my door with ski masks on. One of them had a 12-gauge shotgun, and the other one had a 22 pistol. And they both aiming right at me, and they looked me dead in the eye with them guns. Both of them guns pointing at me, and they looked me dead in the eye, and they said, "Lay it down, nigga," just like that. So I'm preaching. I stop. I look at these guys. I got this tingling sensation all over me. I look at these guys, and you know what I'm saying? And I look at them and I said, man, look, I already know who y'all is. Y'all just take a seat somewhere. And I just go back to preaching like they ain't even standing there. So they standing there with guns drawn on me, and they look at each other like, what the hell is going on? Because the thing was, what was so weird about the situation was, when they came in with the guns, you expect anytime you go in with a gun, somebody see a gun, people going to lose it. They're going to kind of panic kind of thing. But when they walked in with those guns, nobody moved. Matter of fact, nobody even looked at them. That's how strong the Spirit of God was when it was on me. Nobody even looked in their direction. Everybody was completely focused on what I was saying, because the Spirit of God was flowing through me so strong. You know what I'm saying? So I'm preaching. These dudes standing here with guns, and they look at me, and me and my boy, we just still talking like they ain't even standing there. So they stood there for a good minute, and then finally said, man, we just playing. And they took the ski mask off. And guess who it was? It was the dude that asked me to go buy the bullets from him that Saturday. It was him and his boy. They had came back. They came through the house because they said they're gonna rob some people Monday, and they came to my house to rob me. Because God showed it to me, I wasn't afraid of them. Because really, I hadn't officially made my decision yet, but subconsciously, I had already made a decision that I'm gonna start serving the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So the dude that had the 22 was the main dude. He stuck the 22 in his, in kind of the back of his pants, and then he kind of eased onto the bed. And then the guy that had the 12 gauge, he just kind of cocked the 12 gauge up against the door, and then he kind of eased onto the bed. So, I mean, again, without even missing a blink, I just kept on preaching. You know what I'm saying? So now these dudes, they sitting there and they sitting on the bed with their hand folded and they kind of look at each other like, is this real kind of thing? And I'm like, yeah, this is real. And I just kept on going. So I preached for another 20, 30 minutes, you know what I'm saying, before I even, stopped, took a break. So I told the guy, the main dude, I said, hey, man, let me holler at you for a minute. Come smoke. What I told, I said, come smoke with me right quick. And he's like, all right. So I took him into my brother's room and I locked the door behind me. Now, on the way in there, I called out to God again. I said, all right, God, you done already told me that this dude's planning on robbing me and he's planning on killing me. I said, but you said you got this work for me to do. So I'm going to put my life in your hand right now to see that you really got this work for me to do. I said, I'm going to take this dude off by himself. We can go into the room and I'm going to confront him about him coming to rob me. And I'm not going to do anything to defend myself. So you really got this work for me to do, then you're going to have to show up and defend me. So I take the dude in the room. Like I said, I take him in my brother's room. I lock the door, and we sit down on the bed. So we sit on the bed, and I took a blunt with him, and we started smoking or whatever. So I wasn't really smoking. Like I was just hitting it, and I was sucking it in, but I wasn't inhaling. I was like Bill Clinton. I didn't inhale. You know what I'm saying? But he was smoking. And we went back and forth, puff, pass. You know how I go. So I waited about halfway through the blunt, acting like it wasn't no big deal. And then about halfway through, I kind of took it, I puffed on it. And then I handed it to him. And when I handed it to him, I looked him dead in his eyes. I said, here you go, bro. I said, oh, by the way, I forgive you. And he said, for what? I said, man, I forgive you. He said, for what? I said, man, I know when y'all came in here, y'all was really intending on robbing me and killing me. I said, but don't even worry about it, man. I forgive you for it. So when I said that, he threw the blunt down. Like, no, bro, you got me messed up, man. I wouldn't do you like that. You my boy, man. We were just playing. I said, man, look, who gonna come into somebody's house at 11 o'clock at night, almost 11 o'clock at night, with ski masks on and guns if they were just playing? I said, bro, I know you was coming here to try to rob me and kill me. I said, but the thing is, man, I gave my life to God last night, so I'm not even about that business no more. So he's like, nah, bro, you got me messed up. So then we jumped up like we about to fight. You know what I'm saying? So I had already told God I wasn't going to defend myself. So what I did, I positioned myself to where the door to the room was behind me. And I just stood in front of the door and I just kind of put my arms out like this, kind of like, no, what you gonna do kind of thing. And I just looked at him like, what you gonna do? So then he got like, right in my face, bro. And we sitting there looking at each other eye to eye. And he's standing there and I'm doing with this hand so you can see it better. He's standing there and his hand just up like he want to punch me. But he got this look on his face like he want to do it, but he couldn't. Like he wanted to do it. It's like everything in him was trying to do it, but he just couldn't do it. He couldn't bring himself to do it. So he just looked at me like, just had this angry look on his face. And then I remember we stood there for like 30 seconds like that. And I remember thinking in my brain like, man, is this thing going to hit me or what? Because I had already embraced the impact. But, I didn't know he was going to swing or what. So I'm sitting there thinking, is he going to hit me or what? And then next thing you know, I'm looking at this dude. Now, this dude was gangster. I mean, he had a rap shoes on with my arm. You know what I'm saying? He was a straight, thug. He was in the gang, all that, jump out boy. That's what he did. And yet I'm looking at him in his eye, man. And next thing you know, I see a single tear just come down this dude's cheek. Like one single tear come down this dude's cheek. And when that tear dropped from his chin, I remember, I'll never forget, he dropped his arms and he threw his arms around my shoulders, man. He just started crying on my shoulder like a baby. I'm talking about it was to the point where it was awkward because I don't do good with emotions and people crying and stuff like this. So I'm just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But the crazy part was when he threw his arms on my shoulder and started crying, he just started apologizing to me. And he just kept on saying, I'm sorry over and over. And he just kept on saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I was just like, sorry for what? He said, man, I was coming to rob you, but I wasn't going to kill you. I said, nigga, I'm from North Memphis. I said, you know how many times I had a gun put in my face? I said, you think just because you came here with a little pistol that I was going to give you everything that I've been working this hard for to establish? I said, honestly, before yesterday, I was willing to die for this stuff. I said, but I'm willing to die for something else right now, and that's God. And he was like, man, how can I know God like that? And then he looked at me and said, how can I know God like that? I said, let me tell you about him. And man, I set that dude down on my brother's bed, and I sit there and I told him again, told him this story, told him about what had happened, how God had showed up, and showed me I was doing the wrong things, man. And he looked at me and said, man, I really do believe that you talked to God. He said, man, if you can forgive me, bro. He said, I want to serve. He said, I want to serve God just like you. He said, I want to be your right hand. You know what I'm saying? So I said, bet. And man, we hugged each other like brothers. And I'll never forget this because it's the first time this ever happened to me, where I had a man that wasn't in my family tell me he loved me. But this dude hugged me and we embraced each other like brothers. He said, man, I love you, bro. He said, man, keep doing the God thing. He said, I know I'm a knucklehead. I know I'm going to mess up. He said, but man, just promise me that whenever I mess up, you're going to be there for me. And I said, I got you. And man, he walked out the room, man. He grabbed his pistol. He had his pistol. He told his boy, he said, hey, come on, let's roll. His boy grabbed his the shotgun and they just walked out. So I went back to my boys. They still sitting in my room. They don't know what's going on. So I go back to the room where they at. And they like, man, what's that all about? I said, oh, them niggas will come and rob me. Don't worry about it. Took care of it. And I just went back to preaching like nothing didn't happen. So they like, come and rob us. I said, yeah, but don't worry about it. I already took care of it. God got us protected. And I just went back to preaching like, you know what I'm saying, like nothing happened. So then I preached for another few minutes. And I never forget, it was about right at 11:50 that night. It was February 16th because it was Monday night. It was about 11:50, and I told my boy, I said, hey, look, y'all, I got something to do. I need y'all to go and just go up front, and I'll be up there in a minute to finish up the conversation. So they all went up front, and that's when I got on my knees and I made the decision official. It was exactly at 12 o'clock, and I never forget it because it was February 17th, and it was one of my best friend's birthdays. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of a present to him what I did, but it was February 17th, 2004, at 12 o'clock exactly. I got on my knees, and I told God, I said, look, God, I know I asked you to do all these little stupid little tests and things of that nature. I said, but that was me being ignorant. I said, you don't have to do anything to prove to me that you're real. You don't have to do anything to prove to me that you have something for me to do. I said, from this moment forward, my life is yours. Wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, my life is yours, so I can do what you want me to do. I want to live my life from now on to serve your purpose, your will, my life. And in February 17, 2004, at 12 o'clock a.m., I gave my life to God, and I've been serving the Lord ever since. And this past February 17, I just celebrated 16 years of serving the Lord. And again, one of the things that he showed me, and the reason why I was able to do this, and the reason why I want to share this story, because one of the things he revealed to me when I was sitting there and I was upset about everything I had been through, the molestation and all that, what God showed me was it was to make me who I was. It was to give me the ability to do the things that I'm doing. Because that's what he told me when we talked. He said, look, he said, there's churches where people can go to and they can hear my word. He said, a lot of people can open the Bible and read my word. He said, but there's a whole group of people that nobody is really putting any kind of effort into getting, and that's the lost sheep. He said, you know what I'm saying? He said, I want you to go into the jails and get my people out of the jails. He said, I want you to go to the corners where the ones still standing on the corners and get my people off the corners. I want you to go to the prostitutes and tell them they don't have to live like that. He said, I want you to go to the people that's been molested and tell them you know what they're going through, and now this is the way to get through it, and it's all through God. See, that's what he showed me. Everything that he put me through was to get me prepared for the work that I had to do. So when you look at your life, you look at the bad, the good, the ugly, whatever you're going through, all that has a reason. You know what I'm saying? There's a saying we always say, what don't kill us is make us stronger. But we don't often realize, we say that a lot, and we don't realize how true that statement is. Everything I went through, it didn't kill me, but it made me stronger, and it gave me the ability to do the work that I have to do. So now when I go to the guys that stand on the corner, now when I go to the people in the jail, now when I go to the people that's been molested, I can tell them, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I have some validity to what I'm saying. Because we all know, again, another saying that we always say, real recognize real. And if you're going through some people that's living that on the bottom right now, going through it, you know what I'm saying? You ain't never been through nothing. Your whole life been hunky dory. They not gonna want to come and hear this. Oh man, you'll be fine if you just trust in the Lord. You know the Lord will take care of it. They don't want to hear that. But when you got somebody that's been there, been at the bottom, been through living through rats and roaches, you know, been through living with parents as drug addicts, been through being molested, and you can go and tell them like, look, man, I've been through those things, but God brought me through. It'll be some validity to it, and they will listen. And that's what the Lord told me. He said, I needed you. He said, for the work that I have for you to do is a great work. He said, it's a hard work, and it's going to be a labor, and it's going to be a lot of heartache in it. He warned me of that. He said, but I need you to go get my lost sheep. He said, the reason why I put you through what I want put you through is because I want you to be authentic when you go do it. He said, I need you to be authentic when you go talk to my people, because if you're not authentic, if they see any hint of fakeness in you, they will not follow you. He said, but when they go to you, because of the life you live, because of all the things I put you through, he said, when they hear your voice, they're going to hear my voice, and they will follow you. And that's what your job is. That's why I had you live the life that you went through. And that's why I want you to do. I want you to go gather my lost sheep. And from that moment on, man, again, I asked God to do all these other things, but I got away from those things. And I told the Lord that from now on, my life is His, to do whatever He want me to do. And that's what I've been doing for the last 16 years. That's why I started this ministry. That's my baby That's my grandbaby in the background. She's woke up now. She's making her special guest appearance. But that's why I started this ministry, and that's why I stress the importance of this ministry, letting you know that you're never too far away from God. You know what I'm saying? I hadn't been to church in 5 or 6 years. I was dealing drugs, and yet God came and got me right where I was at and told me, hey, I got better things for you. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going through some problems right now, you got certain situations you're going through, certain things that you're going through that you think because you're doing these things and you got these bad habits, you can't be used by God. I'm here to tell you right now that you're wrong. You know, you're dead wrong, and God can still use you, but you got to make the decision that you want to get back to Him. So a lot of people always ask me, how? I had this guy ask me this, and I get this a lot. Like, how can you go within one night from being a drug dealer to a preacher? And I said it was two main reasons why I've been faithful to the Lord. Not that I've been perfect. I don't want y'all to think that. I've been faithful, and as far as working on myself and doing my best to serve the Lord every day. There's two main reasons. It's because after that night, I knew two things. One, I knew that God was real without a doubt. Because again, we all got that in the back of our mind. What if God's not really real? What if it's another fairy tale that they're using to control us? We all live with that in the back of our mind. But that night, I knew without a doubt that God was real. And I knew one thing. I knew this. I knew if God was real, then heaven was real. And I knew if God in heaven was real, then guess what? The devil in hell is real. And I didn't want to go there, and I didn't want nobody else to go there. And that's why I'm so faithful in doing the work that God have for me to do. But the other thing that the Lord did, He gave me a gift that night. Because like I told y'all, when He came to me, when I was sitting there working on that song, He came to me, and I was froze, I was stuck. I had this chill go all over my body. And till this day, every single time I tell this story, it's even happened to me since I've been talking to y'all tonight. Every single time I tell this story, every single time that I'm preaching to somebody and I know we having a spiritual connection, or every single time I'm in God's word, I get those chills on my body every single time. And it only happens when I'm doing or thinking about or talking about the things of God. And the reason why that is because the Bible says, wherever there is two or more gathered in my name, I'm there in your presence. And that's the gift that God gave me that night. He gave me the ability to be able to feel His presence on my life and on me. And again, I've never heard a voice. I've never seen a light. I've never seen no angel or anything like that. But every single time I'm telling this story or I'm talking to somebody about the Lord, I get chills all over my body because I can feel the presence of the Spirit, and I know that God is there with me, and that's what encourages me to keep going on. And again, I tell this story so y'all can see I wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything special about me that made Him choose me. Only thing is, I chose Him. He gave me the wisdom that I needed to choose Him. And it's the same wisdom that we all have. We all have the wisdom. We all know the Lord is calling us. We all know when we're doing stuff we're not supposed to be doing. We all would know when God has His hand upon us. And all we got to do is realize that and make the decisions that we need to be doing, what we need to be doing for Him, and He will bless us. We would get that grace. We would have that faithfulness that I talked about when we went over that story of Daniel. So that is my testimony. That's why I do the things that I do. That's why I've been serving the Lord for these last 16 years. Again, I didn't go to church for this, but the Lord pulled me when I was at my lowest point, when I was at a point where I was thinking about killing myself, when I was at a point feeling like I was cursed, like I was worthless, and the Lord came by and showed up in my life and showed me that I had more worth to Him than I realized. And we got to realize the same thing. The devil will make you feel that you're worthless, that you have nothing you can do, your life is not worth anything. But the Lord will tell you that, hey, I got something for you to do, but you got to choose to serve Him. And that's the key. So, like I said, I wrote that song, God's Will. Anybody interested in the song, I actually recorded the song, and I have it on my YouTube page. I put my YouTube page up here before I get out. But more importantly, man, if the Lord is calling you to do something, if you know the Lord has been keeping His hand upon your life, you can see, we all know when the Lord has blessed us. We all know when the Lord has kept us from doing things that we're not supposed to be doing. We all know when He showed up, but we choose to ignore it because we're so fixated on living the life the way we want to and not giving everything to the Lord, that we often lose the blessing that comes with giving things to the Lord. And that's all I did that day, was gave my life to the Lord and decided to have the Lord guide me to where I need to be. And ever since then, now, y'all know where I started. Now I'm a chemist for $1 billion corporation. You know what I'm saying? I do a job that it ain't too many people that can do. That's a blessing. You know, I'm preaching. I got this lost sheep ministry. I got a jail ministry. Whenever it gets started back up, I go out and lead people to the Lord. I led over 400 people to the Lord in just the last 3-4 years. And if Lord willing, I keep living, and don't tell how many I'll be able to reach as I continue to go. You know, the Lord has blessed me tremendous. I have a family. You know, I live in what to me would be like Mayberry. You know what I'm saying? I have a family. A wife. We just celebrated 16 years of marriage. You know, I have a family life that I never had when I was a kid. Why do I have all these things? It's because I stay faithful to the Lord, and the Lord has blessed me, and He showed me the things that I need to do to serve His purpose and His will. What's wrong? Come here. Come here. You want to talk to the people? What? Tell them why you crying. Say hello. Mommy was watching earlier. I don't know if she's still here. Say hello, Mommy. Say hello, Mommy. Say hey. Hey, she gonna give me some Pop-Tart? Nah, I don't want none. I'm just playing. But again, y'all, I'm gonna end with this. God has a will for your life. You know, again, I'm gonna repeat this. Romans 8:28. It says, "For we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to His purpose." And that's what He showed me that night when we had that conversation. Everything that I went through, everything that I've been through, everything that He put me through, He did it for a reason. It was to make me the man that I need to be. It was the reason why. I don't know how long this thing has been going. I'm pretty sure it's been a couple of hours. But a lot of you, the ones that stayed all the way through, you're able to stay through because I'm reaching out to you. I'm touching your heart. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure there's something you saw in this story that you can relate to. That's what God showed me. We all going through the same thing. We all experience the same thing. We're all struggling down here on this earth, but we all got to realize the key to life is to giving it all to God and making God our priority. So I pray that I didn't take too long. I said I wasn't going to take long, but like I said, there's a lot. And really, I only told half of the story. I left a whole lot of details out. Left out how I met my wife and the way the Lord brought my wife into my life, and a lot of other things that I left out because of just time constraints. But I will tell you this: God is real. And if you're not 100% sure that you know for sure that if you're going to die, you're going to go to heaven, that I advise you that is something you need to get on. Because again, that's why I'm so fervent about what I do. Because I knew without a doubt that day that heaven and hell is real. And we're all going to have a day where we're going to stand before God and we're going to be judged for the things that we did. And if you're not right, if you're not doing the things that you're not supposed to be doing, and more importantly, if you haven't had a day where you accepted the Lord Christ as your Savior, then that's going to be a bad day for you. But if you accept the Lord as your Savior, whether I don't want none of that. That's nasty. It's nasty. But if you haven't made that decision yet, please reach out to me. Reach out. She's going to make me eat. That's good. That's good. But if you don't have a day where you know for sure that you die, you go to heaven, I would say you go ahead and you make that decision. You make that decision and reach out to me. You can inbox me, or if you know me through Facebook, friend through Facebook, my number's on Facebook. All my stuff is public. Make sure you continue to share these videos and let anybody else know that may be benefit from the story. Let them know because it's so important. That's why I do from this story. I'm not going to go back through the story, but that's why I do what I do. That's why I get up every day. And then, like I say, the main thing that has changed for me today to where I was 16 years ago is that now God is my priority. When I wake up in the morning, I'm not concerned with how much money I'm going to make, how many drugs I'm going to smoke, because, of course, I don't do that no more. But I'm not concerned with the material things of this world, how I'm going to receive the material things of this world. My biggest concern when I wake up in the mornings is what can I do to build God's kingdom? What can I do to further God's kingdom? What can I do to help somebody else have a close relationship with God? That's what my life is based on now. And that's the only difference between me now and me then. Back then, I lived for myself. Now I live for the Lord, and He's blessed me because of it. So I pray that my story touched you all. And, of course, I had to cut a lot of it out, and I apologize for that. It's a lot of other people that made some major contributions in my life. Again, I couldn't bring everything in because it would just take way too long. But I hope y'all get the gist of it, and you understand, again, all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. So don't forget, go to my YouTube page if y'all want to hear the song that I wrote that started all this. This is my YouTube page, the address. Make sure, again, you put the indentation, the space between the servant, the T, and the slash right here, and the space between that lost sheep. And if you do that, you put it in just like that, it will pull my page up, and you'll see a picture of me in a black shirt. And I want to warn you, if you do go and listen to that song, I want to let y'all know now, before you hear, that I wrote that the day before God called me to preach. So I was still in my drug dealing days. I still had a lot of anger built up. So the language is strong. It's parental, what they always put the label on, the parental, what is that? Advisory. So there are some curse words in there. And I know
I could have changed the song and took it out. But when the Lord gave me that song, He told me to record it the exact way He gave it to me, because there's the people out there that need to hear it, and they need to hear it the way it was recorded. It's meant for them. And I'm gonna let y'all know right now, everybody's not gonna like the song. Some people probably gonna get upset by the song. Everybody's not gonna like the song because it's not for everybody. It's for the lost sheep. And just like when I preach, so I'm in my relaxed. My t-shirt, whatever you call this, a muscle shirt, or people call it white beaters, because this is not for everybody. Everybody's not going to enjoy my preaching. Everybody's not going to be drawn to me. But the ones that I was meant to reach, the ones that the Lord is putting in my life, the ones that He gave me the responsibility for, they're gonna be reached through this ministry, because that's what the Lord told me that day when He called me to preach. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for listening. I'm going to say a prayer like I always do, and then I get out of here and stop running my mouth, because I probably went way over my time. So let me bow your heads and pray. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, I come to you today. Thank you once again for opportunity to honor and glorify you with the life that you've given me, Lord. It's been nothing short of a miracle for me to be where I'm at today, and the position that you've put me in. And I just thank you for giving me the wisdom to realize it's because of you and your grace that I'm in this position, Lord. I pray that you help everyone out there see through my stories that no matter where we at, no matter what we're doing, we're never too far away from you. We're never in a position where you can't use us until we're never too far away from you to where you can't use us. We just have to make the decision that we want to be used by you and start living our life different and making you our priority instead of making the things of this world our priority. And that's where I was, Lord. I was lost. I was trying to get all these things the world told me I should have to be successful, the money, the cars, the clothes, and the girls, and all these things, Lord. And I never realized the one thing I really needed, which was your love and your grace, is what I was missing. And I just thank you for giving me one more opportunity and giving me the opportunity to make the decision to trust you. And since I made the decision, I haven't looked back, Lord, and I don't regret it one single day. The only thing I regret is not starting to serve you even earlier than what I did. And I regret those 6 years that I spent running away from you, doing the things that I shouldn't have been doing, living my life for myself. But I just thank you because you're a God of not only the next chance, but many chances. And I thank you for giving me another chance and giving me the wisdom I need to serve you with all my heart. And I pray that you just let this story go out, Lord, go around the world if possible. I pray that everybody that's going through something right now, that's dealing with parents that's on drugs, that's dealing with being poor, with dealing with being in a bad situation, I pray that they all can see this and realize that no matter what they're going through, you're still there with them in the midst. You never said that you'd take us out of our problems, but you did say you would be there to help us get through. And I know as long as I hang on to your promises, I will always have the success that I need, Lord. I pray that you be with my church family as we suffer this loss from our church. It's such a heartbreaking loss, Lord, to see the building burn down. And it's been there so long, there's so many memories, but the church will go on, Lord. And this ministry right here that I'm doing tonight is proof of that. The avenue that you provided for me to get my word out and my message out and my testimony out proves that the church will go on, Lord. And I just pray you just be with us as we struggle to rebuild. I pray you be with Brother John and his family. His family invested so much time and effort into that, Lord. And I just pray you be with him and give him the strength he needs to make it through this time. I pray you be with this country as well, with all that we're going through with the COVID thing and the people losing their jobs and the small businesses that's having to close down because of everything that we're going through right now. I just pray you be with everybody, Lord, and help us realize that, again, all things work together for good to those that love you, to those who are truly called according to your purpose and your will. Keep your hand upon those that are sick. Keep them safe. Continue to bless us and guide us all. But more importantly, Lord, continue to guide all our hearts back to you. I pray for the day that we as a people will humble ourselves and pray and seek your face and turn from our wicked ways so that you may hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our lands. Continue to use us all, Lord, and help us realize the importance of getting back to you. I also ask you, Lord, to be with our officials, our government officials. I know a lot of people don't like our president, but your Bible says if we don't like our authority figures, we should pray for them. We shouldn't talk about them. We shouldn't bash them. We should pray for them because you put them in the position they're in, and they have the authority and the power to decide which way our lives go. So I just pray you give them power, love, and wisdom so they can go in the right direction and guide this country back towards you. And I also ask you to be with all your servants that give their heart and soul and their full heart, soul, and mind to serve your purpose, your will. Give them your power and love and wisdom on any problem that may arise that may keep them from serving you and doing the work you have for them to do.
And last but not least, Lord, I pray if there's anybody in the sound of my voice that don't know you as Savior, I pray that you can continue to put your hand upon them, Lord, humble their hearts and open their eyes so they can see the importance of making that decision to put their faith and trust in you and to call upon you as Savior before it's too late. And if there's anybody that needs to reach out to me, Lord, give them the courage to do so and let them know that I'm here for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to answer to any question they have or to do the work that you have for them to do, whether it's guiding them in the direction they need to go with their life or more importantly, helping them hear the gospel so they can get saved and accept you as Savior. I just pray you continue to use me, continue to use this ministry, continue to use my family, and continue to be with my church family so we can continue to walk in your ways and serve your purpose and your will with our lives always. We love you and thank you for everything we've done and given. And thank you for this moment that I was able to use to glorify you. And I ask that you let it go out, touch the hearts of those, and bring them closer to you, and let them see that everything happens for a reason. We love you and thank you for everything. And we say this prayer in one Son, Jesus' name. Amen. So once again, man, thank you all for coming out. I appreciate you all. I hope that helps you where you're at in your Christian life and help you see that I'm not perfect. We're not going to be perfect, but we do serve a perfect God. I pray y'all have a good rest of your evening. And don't forget, Monday, we'll be back. I'll be back here Monday at 5 o'clock. I get back on my regular lessons. And the lesson I'm going to do Monday is going to be called The Importance of not doubting God's Word. That's going to be what the lesson is going to be on. And we're going to look at what happens when you doubt God's Word and the power, the rewards that you lose when you do so, and the power that you lose on your life when you do so as well. So hopefully I'll see you all back here Monday at 5 o'clock. And until then, y'all be blessed. And make sure you watch your back and pray. Love you all.